and gentlemen, here it is, the most listened to radio show on the planet. Even the other stations are tuned in too.
Hi, I'm Taylor Bybee from Coaster Studios, and you're listening to the Coaster Challenge Podcast.
Hi, this is Austin from Amusement Insider, and you're listening to the Coaster Challenge Podcast.
Hi, I'm Grace Peacock, Director of Communications at Canada's Wonderland, and you are listening to the Coaster Challenge Podcast.
How's it going? This is Kyle Smith, the Manager of Creative Show Operations here at SeaWorld Orlando, and you're listening to the Coaster Challenge Podcast.
Hey, this is Jeff Tucker from Knott's Berry Farm, and you're listening to the Coaster Challenge Podcast.
Do you accept the Coaster Challenge? Yes, I accept the Coaster Challenge. Do you accept the Coaster Challenge? Coaster Challenge Podcast is here. It's time to face your fears. Get that theme park therapy and let us go through. Coaster Challenge Podcast is here. Your fear can disappear. We know that theme park therapy can dry up all your tears. Do you accept the Coaster Challenge? Yes, I accept the Coaster Challenge. Do you accept the Coaster Challenge? We accept because you know we're not average.
You're listening to the Coaster Challenge Podcast. A journey where people become fearful to fearless, all from riding roller coasters. So please, secure your hats and glasses and keep your hands and arms inside the podcast. It's time to accept the Coaster Challenge with your hosts, Andrew Locke.
Hey everyone, this is Andrew, one of the executive producers of Coaster Challenge Podcast. Today I've got some fun guests with me, a couple friends of mine, and they represent what I consider to be one of the really nice parts of the community. One of the things I've talked about in the various interviews and discussions we've had here on this show in the past few years is that I love the social aspect of this hobby and the people I've met. I've made so many great friends. One of the things that I really enjoy is seeing families that coaster together. I know a number of, father-son teams, mother-son teams, one of the other producers of the show, of course, everyone knows Kim. She and her kids, especially her and Jay, they're like partners in crime, mother-son team there. But again, I know a number of other kind of parent-child teams that are, they're really both into coasters, and I love seeing that. And two people that I've become friends with more recently here in Florida, locals here, that very much fit that parent-son or, father-son team here, is Brian and James. And I'd like to welcome Brian and James from Zooder Loopers. That's their channel. We're going to talk all about it today. Again, they're here in Florida here. I'd like to welcome them to the podcast. Welcome, Brian and James.
Thank you.
Hey, welcome.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Yeah, we're super happy to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, it's great having you guys on. Of course, I've hung out with you guys, and I remember we were riding Gwazi there a couple of weeks ago, and I've seen you before at meetups and media events, I should say, Brian. And yeah, it's great to finally have you guys on the show. We love having people that are all about positivity on the show, and you guys have such great energy and positivity. I'm really excited to have a chat with you, so this will be fun.
We love talking about it.
Well, I mean, just chatting with you in person, like in the Gwazi queue and like at the media events, it almost felt like a podcast the way we just like bounce off each other. And so
it's great natural conversation that flows so well. And it's not like the worst thing is when you're somewhere where you're in the same place at the same time, like stuck in line somewhere with someone and they're really shy and they don't talk and it's like awkward. We don't have that problem. So definitely very outgoing people for sure. And like I said, I'm excited to talk to you guys in general. I'm certainly excited to talk about one particular story. You already know what I'm talking about, that you guys created. You created a story that was really awesome, and a video that you produced from it. That's it's just so cool. I'm looking forward to that. We'll get to that later. But before we get to that, we're going to talk about you guys in general and to go through our coaster time machine and talk about your fear journeys. And I know, Brian, you have a very interesting fear journey, and we'll get to that. But before we get to that, let's just start off with our kind of freebie starter question. Not that you guys really need that, but I know you guys, but our audience doesn't necessarily. So just each of you tell us about yourselves and your love of parks and coasters.
I mean, so my love for coasters has started very recently, like a little over a year ago, because I was deathly terrified of these things, but I've really grown to just like become totally obsessed with these rides. And it's like, I just want to go out there and ride every single coaster, just get all these experiences. And it's such a thrilling experience, just strapping in, being in the station. You get that atmosphere, the restraint walking and all the people around you talking and stuff, people looking scared, people getting off the ride just smiling, and it's just all around such an amazing experience. It's like, it's always so exciting. Even if I do the same thing over and over and over again, it's always just such a great time. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. And you can tell how excited you are about it. And again, probably a part of it is because it's so new for you that, you know, this new thing. And I know that, you know, and through your father and your brother, you kind of seen them maybe experience some of the stuff, and now you're finally on, which is really cool. And so speaking of, so James, so you're the father. So what about your story? I mean, I'm guessing it's not just been a year now for you enjoying coasters, you know. Well, how's it been for you?
No, my journey started similar, though. I was afraid of roller coasters. I couldn't get on them. And we grew up in SoCal, so going to Disneyland was easy, but I still never went on Space Mountain. I wouldn't go on Matterhorn. I would go on the Big Thunder because it wasn't a coaster for me. It was a train. So I would go on that, but it wasn't until Roller Coaster Tycoon came out that I was like, this is fun. And then I started building some rides. I'm like, okay, this kind of looked, I built something that looked like Ghost Rider. I'm like, okay, maybe I could do Ghost Rider. And it wasn't until a girl, and I was in high school, that she wanted to go on Ghost Rider. And I'm like, oh my God, you're standing in
my shirt.
Oh,
no. Yeah, this is a podcast, but we're seeing each other recording here in Zoom. I'm wearing my Ghost Rider shirt today, so props for Ghost Rider. Sorry,
awesome. But you're sitting in that plaza with that fountain right there, looking at Ghost Rider's lift hill, and I know it just goes over Beach Boulevard, but I don't know, I'm too afraid to go on it. But it was a girl that made me go on it, and I didn't want to chicken out, so I'm like, all right, well, I'll go. And it was awful. It was terrible. I hated it. But it wasn't until then, a couple months later, it's like, all right, well, we have another event to go to, and this time it's at Magic Mountain. I'm like, dude, I can't get out of this. So I go to Magic Mountain and I ride Colossus, and I'm like, dude, Colossus is pretty chill. I just went on this. Ghost Rider is worse than this, and I went on Colossus, and I'm like, this is great. And that was it. I started going on everything. Once I hit Goliath, I was like, I could do anything.
Yeah.
And that was so as Brian grew up, as soon as he hit the height limit for the Matterhorn, which is pretty low, it's like a grandfathered height requirement there. I took him on, and he hated it.
Yeah.
It was awful. He cried. And I'm like, all right. I'll wait until he's tall enough to go on Big Thunder Mountain. That he'll love that one for sure. Took him on Big Thunder, maybe he was 5 years old, hated it. So then I just stopped trying because my wife yelled at me. She told me I'm traumatizing the kids. And we moved to Washington, which is roller coaster desert. There's
right there too. Yeah.
So it's like Thunderhawk, I think, or Timberhawk. It's all right.
And but thing. What's funny is he spoke about Roller Coaster Tycoon, and I would play Roller Coaster Tycoon to build these roller coasters, and I would build the most terrifying looking death machines that I thought these things were. He'd look at them and be like, that's so stupid. That's not realistic at all. And now that I'll look back at some of my old Planet Coaster Roller Coaster Tycoon creations on my phone, and it'll be the most janky looking airtime hills I've ever seen. It's so funny, but that was my way of bonding with him and enjoying roller coasters.
Yeah.
While I didn't like them was through that game.
But then once we decided, okay, we're moving to Florida, we started looking on YouTube, POVs, and we saw the Velocicoaster ad and the Icebreaker ad. And I'm like, oh dude, well, we could possibly do this. And he was like, maybe I'll give it a shot.
And POVs are deceiving.
Yes, they are.
Mako's drop looks like nothing on the POV. So he showed me Mako at SeaWorld, and I'm like, oh, that's a piece of cake. I could do that. Then I get there in person, and I'm just like, that thing is massive.
Yeah.
It's just towering over the entire park. I saw it from the parking lot.
Yeah. POVs. I was just talking to a friend of mine about this. They're also deceiving because you don't feel the ride forces, which are everything. I mean, they're not literally everything. There's theming and there's visuals and audio. but the wind and the weather, whatever, but the excitement, and plus the emotions, but the ride forces are huge. So the fact you have them, but yeah, so it's interesting. You guys both have, similar journeys, of course, different, periods of time, different places and all that, but interesting. So yeah, it sounds like, I think you maybe answered this question from Brian already, but just in case, what was the very first coaster that each of you rode?
Yeah, so that was the Matterhorn for me.
It was you. Okay, it was the Matterhorn.
Yeah, and that was rough. I rember that Yeti in there traumatized me. I was like, that is so scary.
Honestly, he was probably like 4 years old.
Wow, 4 years old.
We have old pictures of me on like the log flume at Knott's, and everyone's having fun, and I'm in the front with like a face of pure terror.
Now, yeah, my first coaster was a Disney coaster as well at 4 years old. It was Space Mountain here in Florida. And I don't remember much about it, but I remember being afraid. And I only remember loading in the station. That's all I have memories of now. But my parents, I think, said I was pretty afraid. But, things have changed, obviously. So the Matterhorn for you, which, yeah, that's literally a rough coaster. And pretty scary, too, for Disney, right? Because of the Yeti. Yeah, that's a pretty good point. But, wow. Historic coaster, though, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
So what about you, James? What was your first coaster? Was it?
It had to have been Big Thunder Mountain.
Big Thunder Mountain. Okay.
It had to have been Big Thunder Mountain because I wouldn't go on Matterhorn. And I remember distinctly my father trying to talk me into going into Space Mountain, and I couldn't go in there because I couldn't see what was in there.
Well, Space Mountain was the first coaster I think I enjoyed. Because then after riding Space Mountain, I retried Big Thunder, and I ended up liking Matterhorn, and I was able to do those Disney rides. But Space Mountain was fun.
You always do that. I don't know if we're going out of turn here, but like,
no, that's okay. Yeah,
there was in 2016 we took a vacation to Florida to see family. We went to Busch Gardens. It was July. I had never sweat more than that day. It must have been 110 degrees. It was awful. I was sweating out of places I didn't know I had, and I buy the quick queue because I'm like, there's 0% chance I'm going to be stuck in a line with a bunch of sweaty people. So I'm buying for everybody. I didn't care how much it was, and it was a lot.
Right.
And I bought it for Brian, and he didn't go on a single coaster. Finally, I talked him into going on Scorpion, and I'm like, dude, you don't want to go on this. This is literally like rough compared to everything else.
Yeah.
He went on Scorpion. He did okay.
Well, because it was the least intimidating. But now I realize like, that you don't want to take someone who's afraid of coasters on a super rough ride, even if it's the smallest coaster in the park.
Right. And yet your dad takes you on Matterhorn for your first coaster.
Right.
Well, I mean, because then later at the end of that trip, I was in tears, but we got on Cheetah Hunt. And
it was really like 10 minutes before the park closed. He only gone on Scorpion and the log ride. Like that was it.
And we lapped those.
And we lapped it.
Like a lot, like 5 times.
And then finally I talked him into, dude, just go on Cheetah Hunt. You're going to like it. I promise you, you're going to like it. He goes on it and he's crying at the end. And I'm thinking I traumatized him again. And he's like, dude, I loved it. And I just feel so stupid that I didn't ride more earlier. And I was like, well, don't feel stupid, but like you missed out on a good day.
Yeah.
So there is now, do you consider your brother, is he considered part of the Zooder Loopers team as well?
Oh, most definitely.
Okay. So there's a third member. Now he's not part of the interview. I know he's a little more shy, but Brian, Derek, he's your younger brother, right?
Yep.
Okay. How many years younger is he than you?
3 or 4?
3.5.
Around that frame.
Okay. And so, but how, like, when did he get, he's taller than you, right? I think
yes.
Right. I know so Brian, okay, just a quick aside, because I'm always curious about stuff like this because I'm an only child. So I didn't have, and some, a lot of families, it's a son and a daughter, but you guys have, it's 2 sons, it's 2 brothers. Yeah. So and you've already told me some things, off the air, Brian, that make me think that this is gonna be an interesting question to ask you. So do you have a rivalry with him? Is there kind of like that kind of stuff? Or?
We definitely take like jabs at each other for sure. Like we're constantly like, just, I wouldn't say arguing because it's not like a mean-spirited arguing, but it's kind of just like trying to take little nudges at each other here at home.
I'll give you this, Andrew. Derek is fearless. He's been on Accelerator and several coasters that Brian hasn't been on.
Right.
Derek will When Derek found out that Montezuma's Revenge is getting an all-new track system, he's like, "Is that a new credit? Because I don't want him to get the credit that I have."
Yeah. So, I mean, there's definitely a bit of a rivalry. It's more of a friendly rivalry.
Right.
But like,
yeah. What age did he become taller than you? Or has he always been taller than you?
that happened like this year.
Yeah, over the last like year or two.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So it's a recent thing.
I was in denial of it for a long time. I'm like, oh, it's because the shoes you're wearing. It's like they have to your soles. Yeah, your hair. No, it's real. It's because you're wearing a hat. He's taller than me.
That's too funny. That's too funny. Now, actually, you brought up a good point. What is the difference in credit count right now between you and your brother Brian?
So I have the lowest one out of all three Zooters.
Of course, yeah.
Am I at 63?
You're only 4 below him. I think he just hit.
I think I'm at 63.
I have to check. I have a spreadsheet.
And so is it Derek's goal for him to always have more credits than you? Is that kind of the idea?
He wants to always stay ahead of Brian.
I want to try and surpass him this summer.
Right. But see, Brian, you have a secret weapon because you might be shorter than him, but you're older than him.
Exactly.
You'll get your driver's license 4 years before him and be able to go places without him. And probably already thinking this. Yeah, right. Okay.
Okay,
right.
so we've talked about this, but like I like to instigate a little bit.
I bet you do.
So I told Derek, don't worry. If he ever goes to a park that you didn't go to, we'll go to one with the equal coaster count.
Oh no, you're really instigating.
Because I also cannot let him ever beat me.
Okay, so I'm gonna guess also that your mom, James, your wife, rolls her eyes a lot at you guys.
Oh yeah,
a lot, but she does have the second most credits in this house.
Oh, okay.
Because she has all the California rides.
Right, there's a lot out there. Yeah. Wow. Yep. Fun. That's fun. Okay. All right. Well, that was a fun little digression there. So let's talk about your fear journeys because obviously you guys have some stories here.
Yes.
So, whoever wants to go first, and because I want to go through each of you. So for each of you, which is the coaster that intimidated or scared you the most up to this point in your life? And what was it?
I think that was probably Mako. Because I mean, there were ones along the way, like Accelerator, that terrified me. Never got to ride those back when Pillarous Plunge was still at Knott's. I saw that towering over.
That was good.
And he rode that. I'm jealous now. But like, yeah, Mako was the biggest one for me because I was in the mindset like I am gonna conquer this fear, going through all the rides at SeaWorld. Then I build myself up to that point, and I'm standing there. We're eating, and we made the mistake of eating right before, and I made myself sick to my stomach before riding that. I'm just staring at it, and I ate too much. I felt like I was gonna puke. It was really intimidating. I did not want to go on, and there have been so many times where I had like gotten right up there to the station, mainly in California. I'd get up and then I'd just walk right across. And I was thinking of doing that, walking right across, waiting for them to ride, and be like, I'll do it another day. But I rode that one, and yeah, that was crazy.
But I think that was the one that got you over the hump.
That was because
Yeah, that makes sense. Usually the one that you're most scared of. Not always, but usually that's the one that does kind of where you have your breakthrough. So let's kind of talk through your fear journey. We'll kind of take you to the next couple of questions, and then James will come back to you and do the same with you. So just kind of make it more continuous. I've done several interviews with multiple people like this, and I think this is a better way to do it. So we'll because it's kind of a series of questions. So Brian, you mentioned Mako, and then some of the things you guys were saying earlier. I was already thinking about this, talking about Scorpion might be one that would be safer for you and all that. So I'm guessing your trigger, Brian, or at least was heights, right?
Yes, that was my biggest thing was the drop. And every time I would go on one of those drops, I don't feel this anymore, but when I would ride coasters like younger and when I was afraid of them, the best way to explain it is like, when you're watching a cartoon and the character like looks down a drop and like it extends.
Right.
That, like little thing. That's how it felt. And it felt like I was like, whoa, like watching the ground the drop just never end. And that was really like, that was my biggest thing, was that initial drop, because after that, everything was fun. It was all good. I was smooth sailing.
Yeah.
But, that initial drop was what got me every time.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. That really makes sense. So you mentioned something else earlier that we haven't really talked much about on the show. So kind of, when I pick up on these things, I try to talk about a little bit. You talked about, at SeaWorld, you were building yourself up to Mako.
Yeah.
The tallest there. And I think it's another sign of someone that, may like the parks, but isn't a thuzy, isn't someone that's fearless versus fearless. Because I remember when I was younger, before I was a thuzy, I'd go to parks. My parents would take me, I'd go with friends, whatever. I would always build myself up. And there's a lot of coasters back that I wouldn't go on. My fear was inversions. So I would skip a lot of, and when I was a kid, I was growing up in the 80s, there weren't as many inverted coasters, because that was kind of like the first decade of coasters having inversions for the most part. So there's still a lot more wooden coasters and, mine trains and things like that. But anyway, I would skip a lot of the inversions, all the inverted coasters for a while. But then even once I broke my fear, and I consider myself becoming a thuzy once I broke my fear, but I was still kind of early on, and I would still do the thing where I'd build things up. But like over the past 5 years, since I've become I coined another term, being a super thuzy, really involved in the community, and you're doing a podcast and media days and going all over the world and everything. Now it's not like I'm not going to go on the kiddie coaster first. I'm not going to go on the My Train. I'm going to go on I'm going to ride Terran first. I'm going to ride Fury first. Exactly. Because the way I think about it is I want to ride it more than once. And what happens if it goes down? And so it's total mind shift. So do you guys kind of have that too, where it's like you're not building up anymore, you're just going for the best one first?
Most definitely. When we went to SeaWorld for that first time, thankfully Manta was closed, because if I had ridden that first, that would have traumatized me. That would have
the heights.
Years.
That
pretzel loop is like nothing I've ever been on before.
Feels like that's right, because you've not ridden Tatsu yet. But James, you have.
I have lost my phone.
Sorry, Brian. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good. But I started with Atlantis, did crack, and then Mako was what I finished on. That was the top. And so I definitely did build myself up. We just recently went to North Carolina for Carowinds.
Yes.
And, Fury was the 5th coaster we rode. He needed to hit 100, so he's like, we got to ride some other ones first. And he wanted to make Fury hit 100. He miscounted. Anyways, it's 101.
I did miscount.
Hurler is his 100.
Oh no! See, that's what you get for doing. Yeah, and I do the same thing. Like when I'm hitting a milestone at a given park, I'll do things in a certain order. Like speaking of Carowinds, I don't normally celebrate non-centennial milestones, but I've talked about this in the podcast before, but just to mention you guys real quick. I had this epiphany light bulb come on. It happens sometimes for me in life. And I think it was literally when I got to Carowinds the day before. And the first time I went there, David was with me. And I'm like, wait a second. I'm going to hit my 325th coaster.
Oh,
so I oriented it that way, so that was pretty fun. Only time I've celebrated a non-centennial milestone, but yeah.
That's cool.
So yeah, definitely do that sort of thing when I'm hitting a milestone. So, all right. So Brian, fear of heights, Mako really intimidated you. So how did you feel when you got off of Mako that first time?
So that was the first time I've ridden a coaster that's really gotten to me. Because even the ones in Washington, it was like, you know what, but I can do this. I've ridden other coasters of this height. I can do it. I got it. Even Cheetah Hunt, I'm like, okay, this is only 20 feet taller. And that's a thing I would do, is I would look at the stats, be like, okay, that's 20 feet taller. That's nothing,
Right. It's a good way to look.
After Mako, that was something I've never done before. That height was way new. And so I felt so accomplished with myself, and so just proud of myself for being able to not only face that fear, but now my first reaction was, let's do it again. And I'm sure a lot of people can react to that, but I wanted to cycle through that ride a million times.
Right. No, that's great. And I don't want to dismiss something, that really good piece of advice that you shared there which I don't think people have anyone's mentioned before. This could be almost your answer to our question that we have towards the end about what advice you give those who are listening. But your kind of rationale, you're approaching things logically, which we've heard people talk about before. I try to do that too, to rationalize fear and to minimize the effect of fear. But in terms of the logic you use, well, hey, I've been on this and this other one that I've not ridden yet, I'm about to ride. It's only 10 feet taller. It's only 5 miles an hour faster. Or someone that's afraid of inversion, it's only got one more loop than the ones I've done, or it only has one loop. Like David, his big one was going on California Screamin', and he was afraid of inversions. Well, that's the perfect coaster, to go on as your, as your first coaster, because it only has one inversion. I mean, there are very few coasters that only have one inversion. Like even your Schwarzkopf shuttle loops, or the old arrow loops, you'd go through forwards and backwards, so it's still kind of like two loops, two inversions. But or even the corkscrews, they've got corkscrew loop, that kind of thing. But anyway, so yeah, I love how you rationalize, and that's great.
Oh, sure.
So okay, so you felt great, which is very common. Feel accomplished. You're not, you don't feel bad because you gave in, you chickened out. You felt good because you conquered your fears.
Yeah.
And how did riding Mako, conquering your fears, how did that impact your life?
Well, it's because I knew, like, by looking at the stats, it was one of the tallest in Florida at the time. Now Iron Gwazi tops that by a whopping 6 feet. But
right.
But I knew, like, okay, if I do this, I was an enthusiast. I still knew all the stats and all the coasters worldwide. There's only so many coasters that beat 200.
Right. Yeah. There's probably maybe 50 of them in the world. Maybe
not too many. And Riding Fury reassured that, like, because I was terrified getting onto Fury. That fear was coming back. And I sit down, we're going up the lift. And whenever we rode a new coaster and I was trying to get rid of the fear on any B&M, thankfully Florida's full of them, we would always do what we call safety seating.
Okay.
Him and my brother would always sit on the edges. I would always get the middle seat because I wouldn't feel like brave enough to sit on the edge. So my first time with Fury, I'm like, let me get the edge this time. I got the edge on the opposite side of the catwalk too. I wanted to, like, get that fear and just punch it in the face. So
nice. So, and that is something that happens, is once we break our fears, not only are we not having them anymore, but we're like we become brazen in a good way.
It's like, okay, I've done this before. Let me just do it again, just 125 feet bigger. And it's funny, going up that lift, I'm like, you know what, I can't really tell the difference from this and Mako, honestly. Going down, but like going up the lift, it's like, you know what, I can do this. And before I went down the drop, I was hands up.
The difference is, and I haven't timed it. Actually, a good friend of mine, who I say this almost every interview, my token, and it's not a token thing. It's legitimate, and literally this person is on my list. Someone I need to have on the podcast. You're on my list if you're listening. Raptor Joe. Raptor Joe would be the perfect person. I don't know if you guys know her, if you've met her. She's called Raptor Joe because she used to work Raptor at Cedar Point. She worked Mako for years at SeaWorld. She lives in Orlando. She's a good friend of mine. I just saw her last week. She's great. She's awesome. You guys need to meet her. You would love her. Fury is her number one, but Mako is her baby. You might have heard of her. She's the person that has over like 4,000 rides on Mako.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she's pretty famous for that. So she worked Mako. She's been on Mako many times. She's been on Fury many times. It's her number one. She makes multiple pilgrimages per year up to Carowinds.
Yeah.
So the question I would ask, and she would know the answer immediately, is, okay, so obviously Fury's lift hill's longer.
Yeah.
But Fury's lift hill's faster. So I bet that one kind of compensates for the other, almost exactly. That the length of time you're on the lift hill of each of them is pretty similar. I bet.
Yeah, it's about the same.
Yeah, I can see it about the same. Yeah. Now, Brian, you were starting to say something I just want to clarify. When you first rode Fury, which is just a couple of weeks ago here.
Yeah.
You said you were worried you were going to get afraid. Is that how you put it?
I was afraid, and
you were afraid. Okay.
We actually made a video just about that. It's like my face, the thumbnail is my face, like right up close. I look really stupid. It says this like 300 plus foot coaster made me scared of roller coasters again.
Yeah, he really was afraid again.
Yeah, that
It's like
fear,
he took a step back.
that
for a
fear
little bit.
tapped back in. And it's just because it's like, okay, well, I've conquered 200 feet and I've done Gwazi and Shikra and Mako, you know, it's like I've done all these 200 footers. I could take a 200 foot drop anytime. I could do it with my eyes closed.
Right.
But,
Right.
which riding a coaster with your eyes closed, it's much more scarier
I
than
yes.
riding with your
No
eyes
way.
open.
Can't do
Yeah,
it.
'cause you don't know where
I
you're
know-
going. You don't know what's happening. Yeah.
A lot of people like close their eyes on the drop when they're scared.
I don't agree with that.
Bad idea.
Don't do that.
I don't think it's a good idea either. Yeah, for
But,
kind of beer. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, it was just like uncharted territory for me. And that was what scared me because it's like, I'm doing this all over again.
Mhm.
Right. So, okay, so I got to ask.
Yeah.
So, do you still feel that Mako is the one that scared you the most?
I believe so, yes, because that entire ride, I think I was scared. Like I was not holding on. The only time I let go of my restraint was after the turnaround, like after the
Right.
5 seconds airtime hill.
Right.
Um,
Right.
That was when I let go of my restraint. Fury, I had my hands up before I went down the drop.
Okay, and you had your hands up the first ride the whole way through.
Yes.
Okay, that's another thing that I've talked about this before. And not everyone, not everyone's a hands up rider. Most enthusiasts are, but there's nothing wrong if you don't. But over the past, again, it's been about 5 years since I called myself to be a super enthusiast, whatever that term you want to use, that
Yeah.
I have been on my first ride on a coaster. I just did on Air Force One. I just rode that for the first time. I put my hands up, steel benches, put my hands up first time. Velocicoaster, I couldn't. And I don't think I've ever talked about this before. So I've mentioned before that my first rides on Velocicoaster, along with a bunch of friends of mine, Mark Martinez, Austin from Amusement Insider, Kaylin, of course you guys know Kaylin, all of us, we rode Velocicoaster as part of a filming for Universal in April of 2021 before the ride opened.
Mark,
And when you do, what's that?
you can see Mark in the background of the.
Oh,
the
yeah.
advertisement. You can
Oh
see
yeah,
him
yeah, yeah.
over.
Yeah.
It's really funny.
Yeah, because we ride them, when you do these filmings, I've done a bunch of them, you ride the coasters a bunch of times, like it's like ERT, but like only like maybe one of those rides gets featured in a commercial, and so it's who's on the train and what part of the train they use. It's all because we're not, as despite what Mark might say, because he's a jokester, he's hilarious. The people that are being filmed are not really us, us enthusiast riders. It's the talent that's up front in row one and that sort of thing. But anyways, when you do filmings, have you guys done, I'm not talking about media days. Have you done like seat filmings like that?
Not yet.
So the thing that really sucks about them, and I still love them, I enjoy them, they're great, is parks, pretty much every park out there, sort of a safety conscious thing. Not that it really would help you, God forbid the restraints failed, but they want you not with your hands up, they want you holding the restraint.
I noticed that when we went to the Aeronautica Landing Media Day.
Yeah.
It's natural for me to put my hands up and getting on one of the flat rides. They're like, okay, you have to hold on to the
Oh,
restraint.
there you go. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was like
Interesting.
interesting too, because I'm like, man, that sucks because it was that like little, what's that ride called?
It's a Zamperla.
It was called the Air Racers. And
Oh,
like,
the Zamperla with the planes upside down. Yeah.
the little planes, and it stalls you out there. And I would just
Right.
love to like dangle.
Oh,
and
yeah.
hands up.
Yeah. And I think probably why they have people do that is they want, because they let's face it, parks want to have as many people enjoy the parks as possible. It's part of the business, and selling tickets. So for the people that are scared, they want to show people, okay, this is how you hold on to the restraints. There's something you hold on to. It's a reassurance, that sort of thing. That's probably why they do it. But in any case, okay. So you felt less afraid on Fury, but I'm assuming you guys rode Fury more than once when you were up there, right?
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
5 times.
So
5 times, yeah.
And it was cool. We were the last train of the day.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So did you feel any fear on the second and subsequent rides?
No, I didn't. Not at all. It was just I tapped, like I got the adrenaline rush and I tapped back into my normal self. Is like I just want to get on this as many times. They yelled at me for speed walking. They're like, no running. And I'm like, oh, my bad. And then I'm speed walking and I hear the ride operator go, he's still running.
Now, at this point in time, there's one, maybe two, but at least here in the US, only one operational coaster. Well, no, technically two. Technically three if you count both tracks. So Superman Ultimate Escape in Magic Mountain, the two tracks there. That is a coaster. It is a coaster. And then, of course, King to Ka, and then Top Thrill Dragster, I'm sure, will be 400 plus when it's reopened. So, those, you've not ridden any of those yet, right? Right, Brian?
I haven't even ridden any other Gigas. So I think like getting on specifically Millennium Force and I-305, because it's a new lift system that I'm not used to. I'm not used to going up a lift.
The elevator lift, yeah. So are you concerned you might still have a little bit of fear on some of these rides, or?
A little bit, definitely. Yeah. Especially King to Ka and Dragster.
Right.
I'll be afraid of Superman, but he tells me that that's forceless. So I think it'll be like,
it doesn't. You won't even. It doesn't even go all the way up anymore.
Well, so I'll be afraid in line, like watching it do its thing, and then like once I get on and I actually experience it, I think it'll just be like, oh, okay.
The coolest part of Superman is walking around it and hearing it.
Oh, I love the sound.
Oh,
it's like a jet taking off. It's like a jet.
Yes, it is. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's a really cool sound. Like Intamin has their LSM, well, and that's a limb, but their modern LSMs, like especially Terran Velocicoaster, they sound amazing, but it's a different sound. And I've not seen any other coaster sound like Superman does. And I've been out of the limbs, but yeah. So I would claim to you, Brian, and you'll have to come back to me in, I'm hoping and guessing, a few years.
Okay.
We don't talk much about rumors. Funny, I was just talking to a friend about this on the phone. Actually, it was David, I think I was talking about this. It was last night. There are rumors, I'm not gonna say which park, but it's one here in the southeast, sort of, is rumored to be getting a T-Rex, and maybe 500 feet, or maybe it's a few years and it's going to be Falcon's Flight,
maybe it's the Dragster Swing Launch,
or maybe it's the Dragster Stretch. But I'm going to guess that as you hit more of these 300 and the 400 feet ones, you're gonna, because you're new, you're a fairly new enthusiast. It's been a year now, and we talk about fear being like strength training. And so you've not maybe done enough of it yet where you've totally knocked out the fear. You've done it for the most part. You really have conquered it, but you've still got vestiges of it there. So I would bet by the time you get to ride something like a Falcon's Flight or a Top Thrill Dragster, next year, Top Thrill Dragster, whatever it's going to be now, that you're going to start not having fear anymore on these taller ones and things like that. You're almost there. It sounds like you're almost there. So
I think I'm like one more ride away from him. Like it's got to be King to Ka or Dragster, and I think it's just hands up without like even thinking twice.
Yeah. To me, there's something very liberating about putting your hands up the whole time for the first time you ride a ride.
For sure.
It's like the ultimate, like, I'm not afraid,
But it's that moment that like I could already see myself sitting there for King to Ka, because you almost envision it beforehand, and I'm not really afraid, but I know I'm gonna feel nervous. And I could already see myself like having to decide in that launch track, like, all right, I'm holding on, I'm on King to Ka, I see it. Am I gonna do it? Am I gonna do it? And I did that also with Fury. Because it's like, dude, the second it starts taking you up, I'm like, oh crap, like this is actually happening. And then I'm like, I'm holding it, and it's like, all right. And you know how I am. Like I kind of like, I like the airtime, but I might give it an extra click every now and then.
I had and this dude pushes down on my restraint.
I'm a father. What do you want me to do? Like, I know.
It means he loves you, Brian. It's good. If he didn't care about you, he'd be like, oh, leave it up.
I still gave you airtime. I still gave you
push it down 2 clicks.
But like that moment for me on Fury, it's like, all right, screw it. It's a moment where you finally realize, all right, I'm not afraid. I just got to do it.
Well, I ended up getting to the point where I'm telling myself, I know I'm going to like this. So despite what my fear is telling me, I'm going to enjoy this. So, if you've ever drove from the airport to Carowinds.
Yep.
When we saw Fury over, like just towering over the interstate.
Oh yeah.
We were driving and it showed up and it was like,
We saw it and we were like,
dude,
no way.
no way that's actually Fury, right?
And then we got closer. I'm like, holy crap, that is Fury.
It was massive. So that
I've never seen that before.
that shocked me how big it was and how you could just see it from so far away towering over. That's what's gonna scare me about those 400 footers. It's like
Now okay. I got one more question for you, Brian. Then I want to talk about James's fear journey. So, Brian, have you been to Holiday World yet?
Man, we just missed Hollywood Nights too, and that was your fault.
Oh, that would have been so great if you guys could come this year. There's so many awesome friends are going to be there. I'm so excited to be going. Yeah, it's going to be part of the road trip I'm doing. Yeah.
I have not gone to Hollywood Nights, but I know the voyage has inspired a lot of wooden coasters I built on Planet Coaster.
Oh, nice. And I mean, and not only is it relentless and, you know, one of the most intense coasters, not just wooden coasters, intense coasters, period. You know, to me, it's the I-305 of wooden coasters.
Oh, love.
Man.
Yeah. I mean, I've actually never thought about that. I literally just thought that by talking to you guys. Never said that before, but it really is. But it's very tall. I mean, it's one of the tallest wooden coasters. And it's got that, you know, it's a wooden coaster and it's not lightning rod. So it's got a slow lift hill. You know, there's no such thing as really a fast wooden coaster lift hill. So I'd be curious to see, you know, that's another one that might be one to test. You know, have you really conquered all that fear out of you yet? But yeah, it's such a great coaster. Yeah. Hopefully you guys can make Hollywood Nights next year.
We won't miss that one.
Most definitely next
year. Such a great event. Okay, well, thanks, Brian. Really interesting fear journey there, and I'm really glad you conquered Fury. So now it's your turn, James. So which coaster is the one that scared you the most?
You know, outside of that Ghost Rider incident, and then conquering Six Flags Magic Mountain in the late 90s. It has to be X2 or X at the time when X, because at that time it almost seemed like all the coasters were like one being named with an X. So it was like Accelerator and X came out and they were all coming out at the same time. But like, I don't think vertical drops were like really happening in mass until then. And so X2, you know, I watched it online go up. And getting to the park, and dude, I don't know if you've seen it, but like you turn off the freeway, and as you turn into the parking lot, X2 is right there.
Oh yeah,
and it's like it is staring you in the face, and I'm like, there's nothing I could do. Like I gotta go on that, and it looks intimidating as all hell. Even more so now because it used to look a little clowny. Yeah, it was like
silly colors, like. It's like pink and yellow or something.
But now, you know, X2 with black, you know, it looks good. Anyways, but taking you up backwards was so frightening for me because you didn't know when the end was.
Yeah.
And I mean, so it had to have been X. X was just the scariest thing I think I've ever gone on. And just, oh my God.
Yeah.
What is that ride? Like, it's unbelievable.
Well, adding on to what you said about the vertical drop, it's like vertical drops weren't really happening, let alone a vertical drop where you're like spinning around and doing all sorts of crazy things.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, but hear me out on this though, because I would ride, you know, I would ride roller coasters, right? And once the vertical drops came out, I was super afraid of vertical drops, you know, 90 degrees down. I can't believe this. You know, you get the marketing gets to you. And then I ride it. X was crazy, but like Accelerator, dude, that was the funnest ride I've ever ridden in my life. That was amazing. And that drop was vertical and it didn't feel bad. And I'm like, dude, I will take a vertical drop over a steep drop any day because for some reason I think, and maybe it's just me, but like if it's steep, then I'm going to feel it more. But like the vertical drop, I almost feel like my back is being pushed up against the seat and I actually feel less of those butterfly feelings in the stomach.
Yeah.
I think never thought about this before, but it's sort of maybe the physics of it. And of course, with X, it's a little different because the ride vehicles. But at least with X, with that vertical drop and how the ride vehicles are, because how they rotate to face straight down, your body is sort of it's perpendicular to the drop, like almost perfectly. So you kind of feel the forces uniquely across your body. Yeah. Versus when you go down an angled drop in a regular kind of train, you know, you're not. The forces affect you differently.
Your body still wants to come out.
Yep. Yeah. So there is a different force effect. That's really interesting. I've thought about that before.
Yeah.
So for you, James, is it the same for you as it was for Brian? Is it the heights, the drop? Is that kind
of the heights, the drops? For sure. It was the heights and the drops, but like I said, very similar to Brian. And, you know, I think we had pretty similar experiences just in different generations. You know, I would go look at the stat lines, like, okay, so Ghost Rider is 115 feet or whatever, I don't know. And then, you know, Colossus was like 125 or something like that. I'm like, all right, that's not that bad. And, you know, I rode that and it's super old. And I was like, wow, that's like lame compared to this. And then I rode like Revolution. And I'm like, wow, that was super lame. And I'm like, then let me ride Ninja. And I'm like, Ninja, this is roller coasters. These are just 100% fun.
Good job never getting us invited to any Six Flags Magic Mountain meeting. Just called like a bunch of their rides lame.
I understand the relevance of Revolution, but by today's standards, it's wild that was their headliner at one point. You know, like by today's standards, doesn't fit. And so, but I appreciate them. I'll still ride them. You got to ride them,
right?
But like, but it made me realize coasters come in all flavors, of course. And they're not all insanely terrifying,
right?
And even though I think Viper at the time scared me still, because that thing's big. That's like 170 feet. Like, really? Yeah, big. Huh.
Well, and also think about it, you know, like my number one is like this. A coaster doesn't have to be intimidating or terrifying to be in like your favorite ride or one of the best rides or your top tier rides. It's more about for me at least, it's the theming is part of it. A visual, auditory, etc. But that can move it up the list. But the big thing, like we talked about earlier, it's the forces. It's how much you enjoy the ride. You know, which, you know, a lot of it's the airtime, the forces. And so I'm going to ask you something related to this, James. So you mentioned Accelerator being really fun. Is the acceleration? Is it the speed?
We've been talking about this as a family lately.
Oh yeah,
and I think that. We actually had the same exact conversation. I've narrowed it down to the acceleration of a ride, and the speed is my top defining like metric. I love speed.
So I'm gonna guess that the boost launch on Velocicoaster is one of your favorite parts of that ride.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Especially the way it just goes. It is the most beautiful form of launch right into it. It's just so smooth and perfect. I mean,
you know what's one of my favorite launches?
What?
The first launch on Cheetah Hunt.
The first one?
It has a little bit of oomph to it, you know,
especially like because it keeps you guessing. You don't know when it's going to go.
It's got a little kick.
I like the sound of it too, which is different. It's different sounding than all the other Intamin LSMs, like Blitz coasters. It's Maverick doesn't sound like Velocicoaster Terran. They don't sound like it. It's weird. So yeah, if you like the sense of speed and acceleration, which is one of my favorite things as well, my two favorite forces are not the most common ones. Like everyone's like airtime, you know, negative G's. My two favorite things actually are acceleration, so linear forward G's or even backwards, and positive G's. So that's why I love the curves on that 305. But if you really love that sense of speed, and if you do happen to enjoy positive G's at all like that, you're gonna really love Terran, because Terran and Velocicoaster, they're different, and you know, Maverick's not the same. Terran, the launches are so powerful. The boost launch especially is so incredible, but it's that combined with both the initial launch, the boost launch, and other parts of the ride. There are some really tight curves, whether it be horizontally, like to the left or right, or one of my favorite aspects of it's kind of a 1-2 punch on Terran is the boost launch. Again, so powerful, and the sound is great too, because it's down in the canyon, you get the echoing, but you exit the boost launch, and it's not to the left or right. There's that wall, that famous wall, like that theming, you know, that little spire wall looking thing. That's right there. That's what you're going up against, and you go up vertically to the left in this crazy tight banked curve. That's both, you know, curving to the left, but also really more upwards. And like you're climbing to heaven. It's like, that's why I call it kind of heaven. And it is so amazing. And then there are other curves in that ride, like especially there's one really, not the only one, but the first or second one after the first launch is awesome. But then the very last curve as you come back into the station, this is the crazy thing about Terran. There's no trims. I've never experienced trims on it. It is a speed machine from start to finish. That ride has the best pacing I've ever experienced on a coaster in my life. And it does not give up. It's like, you know, other coasters, like, you know, Velocicoaster, it meanders in the first half.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, it would certainly, you know, Cheetah Hunt, a lot of other coasters, they meander. Terran, it is perfection from beginning to end.
Awesome.
And yeah, I think you would love Terran based on kind of what you're describing. You really enjoy, and of course, Brian, you'll love it too. But you know, it's actually, and you know, honestly, Terran would have been an interesting one for you because you're afraid of heights, and Terran's a train coaster. It's not. I think it goes like 50 feet up, maybe 75. You know, it would have been one that maybe, you know, you could have done early on and really kind of got your passion going. But yeah, kind of like you did Cheetah Hunt. That was one of your earlier ones that you kind of built up to because it doesn't go that high. I mean, you know, the perch thing, that's probably the highest part, but yeah, it's not crazy. Yeah. Nice. Okay, so James, so you conquered your fear on X. So how did you feel when you got off of X?
Like a new man. You do anything. That was life-changing. Like that ride, I still have no words for it.
Yeah.
Nothing just it can be described like that. Of course, it's been over 10 years since I've ridden it, and so I'm a little afraid to rewrite it because I don't know how it is on the roughness factor.
Yeah,
but I mean, I'm dying to get him on it.
I can't wait, man. I wish they still ran it with fire and music.
Dude, the music is amazing. Hearing Enter Sandman on the way up,
and then so
hearing Sabotage on the way down.
Yeah. It's so,
I mean,
so you like Sabotage?
When like was it Sabotage? They like when they played it, they go, no, you know what? It's not Sabotage. It's I think I'm trying to remember. They play Aerosmith, like Going Down.
Yeah, but you mentioned Sabotage though.
And then they played Sabotage in it, didn't they?
Yeah, well, this I don't think they do. Sorry, I'm triggering off this because I love music, and I just actually bought concert ticket tonight for like the show I'm like so looking forward to going to.
Nice.
Hang on a second here.
Beastie Boys.
Play it.
Beastie Boys was
Beastie Boys. Okay.
Was after Going Down. Then you hear Beastie Boys. Yeah.
They got their scream.
Oh, yeah, it is kind of a mashup. Yeah. But okay, but you mentioned Sabotage, James. So you know Sabotage. So are you a big TSO fan then?
TSO, I don't know.
Trans-Siberian Orchestra, because they're okay. Yeah,
I don't know. They're like Christmas music, right?
Well, yeah, but they're the people. I forget how it is. Several of the people that founded TSO were from Sabotage. It's rock Christmas music, but other things too. It's really know. Yeah. Anyway, I didn't know. I've never heard anyone mention Sabotage before. That's why anyway, quick aside, but so Kim will enjoy editing this because she's really into rock music and stuff. Anyways, okay, so all right, so yeah, continue talking. You were talking about how you felt getting off of it, and you're nervous about going back to it. So I just had a friend, and he's been on X before. He was out. I just had dinner with him, but he was out at Magic Mountain last weekend. And he actually, I gotta forget all the details, but he almost basically felt like he got whiplash on X.
Yeah.
And he like, he's fine now, but he was not doing well afterwards. Like, he had to take a break. I think he even went, he was trying to get, like, some medication, like, like pain relievers, and they wouldn't give anything for legal reasons and all that. But yeah, it kind of roughed up his day. So I'm not saying to not ride X, but just it is gotten rough. Yeah.
I do have a story to tell you, though.
Okay.
Kind of have been on X.
What?
So my wife goes to these theme parks with me just fine.
Oh, I know where this is going.
I'm not kidding you. We went to Magic Mountain, and we lived down in Orange County. So, it's a drive. We don't go to Magic Mountain all the time. Right. And we drove up to Magic Mountain, finally convinced her to go, and we went. And we went on, Goliath and X and all those rides. And then, like 2 hours, 3 hours in, she's like sitting there and she's like, oh, I just don't feel good. I'm like, it's not gonna ruin the stay for me. And she's like, well, I'm not ruining your day. Like, you go on all the rides. I just don't feel good. And, you can't like have one person in the party, especially your wife, not feel well, And so it was kind of a weird day, and I probably was meaner than I needed to be. And she reminds me of it several times because a couple of days later, she's like, hey, guess what? I'm pregnant. And I'm like, so maybe that's why you kind of internally do like this. Because
does that mean I have the credit?
No, you don't have the credit.
No, and your brother will definitely tell you no. Yeah.
No.
Derek, nope, doesn't count, Brian. But embryo Brian did not experience. Yeah, it doesn't count. That's an interesting story, though. That's a really interesting story. Okay. So how would you say, James, that riding X, like, is there anything else you could think of in terms of having, how it impacted your life, how it changed things for you, James? Yeah.
I would say that X didn't impact me or my life as much as riding Mako did. And so fast forward a little bit later, right? Just a couple of years ago, as just a man who's gone from having no children to having kids and growing with them, because I was a young parent.
Clearly. You guys look like brothers, by the way. I'm sure
we get that so often.
We get that a lot.
I'm sure.
We go, they're like, oh, are you guys brothers? No, he's my dad.
So I try to keep the hair short so you don't see the grays. But there's been a lot of growth in learning how to be a man, learning how to be a good father.
Yeah.
But there's also in the last 4 years or so been a lot of growth spiritually with my growth towards Christianity. And my biggest moment where I feel like it really kind of was a life-changing moment was when I finally decided to raise my hands on Mako. And it was 2 rides in. It was fine, right. But it was 2 rides in, and I hope you don't mind me going down this road, but it was okay. It was 2 rides in that I'm like, you know what? I am giving all of my faith into the manufacturer of this ride, that this restraint works 100%, because if it doesn't, I'm toast. And here I am with my hands up, 100% faith in a man-made thing. Imagine if I could live with that level of faith that the book tells us to in Jesus Christ. And for me, that was a life-changing moment, because I was like, wow, that was really powerful to me, that I just need to take one step in that direction. And so since then, more specific, explicitly since then, I've tried to take a step back and try not to be so in control of my life. As weird as that sounds, I try to be, I try to let things come, let things go, but just impact and change the way I handle them or how I react to them, so that way I could continue to put all of my faith in the Lord Jesus Christ. And so if he gives me, a hurricane, God forbid, I'm gonna handle it the right way, and I'm going to have my head on straight. I'm going to take care of my family as much as I can and move forward. Or if something were to happen at work that isn't very fun, I'm gonna handle it with grace, and how can I continue moving forward in a way that would make my family happy and like proud of. And so it's been the faith that strengthened. Mako strengthened my faith in Jesus. I bet really no one said that on your podcast, but
no, but I know I'm not a person. I'm not myself a very religious person, but I have a lot of respect for religion, and especially when religion has a positive impact on people, because sometimes it can have negative, cause people to kill other people in the name of God and all that kind of thing, like terrorism. But that's obviously not the case here. It's positivity, it's positive aspects of how religion is great. What's that?
I said we just like roller coasters.
Yeah, church or roller coaster. There you go. Yeah. So, but no, I love that, James. I love that you shared that, and I know a lot of our listeners will enjoy that, because we have quite a few Christian listeners and guests we've had on. They'll appreciate that for sure. And you just made me think of something. Not to start going off on a religious tangent, but while I'm not necessarily a religious person, I do believe in God, and I just a light bulb went off in my head. When people, they maybe even argue against the existence of God when they, philosophically, when they say, well, if God exists, why do these bad things happen? How would he allow this to happen? A hurricane, you mentioned a hurricane. Yeah. And the light bulb went on my head, because I have been through this in my life. I have proof of this. By going through a hardship in life, we become better people.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, when people talk about, oh, wouldn't it be great if I had, $1 billion when I was from being a baby and have to work a day in my life. Well, a lot of the people that have tons of money, actors and celebrities and sports stars, a lot of them get into drugs and they get alcohol because they get bored and they don't feel challenged and they need to have excitement, and they don't have that, so, there's that. But like, I would, challenge people that say, oh, I would love to have a perfect life. No problems. Well, you're not going to have as much depth as a person. You're not going to be, really a fully fleshed out person. Absolutely. You don't have life challenging you. Yeah. So perhaps God puts these challenges before us to help us grow as people.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I'm sorry, you sound like you want to say something, but when my wife and I were getting married, we were like 19, and I was a mama's boy, and and my mom passed away a month before my wedding, and it was so terribly sad. I'll never forget. Like, she's the only close person I've ever lost, but I never have cried like that in my life. But after a while and I wasn't even very religious then. I didn't know Jesus as I do today. Sure. But like, I did have a moment where I thought to myself, this might be necessary in order for me to grow as a man, as a husband, and be able to provide to my wife, and then grow as a father for you. It's time for me to leave the nest. Yeah. And it's the saddest way, but that's how I coped with it, because I knew it had to happen. It had to be the next step for me.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting. It makes a lot of sense. So if we take a step back here, if you guys take a step back and, beyond conquering fear, and granted, James, you already kind of answered this next question, or maybe you have other answers. Can you guys think of how coasters and parks have had a significant positive impact on your life in any kind of larger way beyond the facing fear aspect?
You have an easy answer, and if you don't get it right, then
I think I know what you want to be. I think I know what you're getting at.
Well, it's how I met my girlfriend.
Boom.
Okay, sweet.
Okay.
It's how I met my girlfriend, and it's absolutely wild. I've gotten so many amazing opportunities and just blessings from running this channel and doing all this, but she's got to be one of the biggest ones that I've received. That she followed us when we got 200 followers on Instagram. And funny enough, she was actually 199, but I still say she was 200. It makes that milestone a lot more special. Anywho,
it's just like we say that Fury is your 100th, right, James?
Yeah, exactly. Definitely not hurdle.
But yeah, I met her through that, and it's really funny. I just saw her profile picture on Instagram, and I thought she was cute, and she was a roller coaster enthusiast, and we had a lot of other things in our bios that lined up. And so we started talking theme parks. 3 months later, I'm on top of Mako, and I asked her to be my girlfriend right before the drop.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that ride holds a lot of significance in my life.
Both of you. Well,
because it was also her first big roller coaster. So for both of us and you, third wheeling my special roller coaster. It's a really significant roller coaster for me. And it's really
clearly for both of you. Yeah. Now you said she was your 200th of Zooder Loopers?
Yeah, she was on Instagram, our 200th follower.
Okay. So I have to ask, because I only learned this myself recently. So it was only because, and nothing against you, James, because I met Brian first. I associated Brian with the channel. Yeah. And you're so then I met you, and then I learned when I met you, James, that you're the one that kind of runs the Instagram channel. Like the Zooder Loopers one.
Yeah.
So so did who is now your girlfriend, did she start messaging Zooder Loopers first?
Well, because I have access to Zooder Loopers on my phone. So I got in whenever I see something cool happen.
Right. And a pretty girl or right. Yeah,
watch from the shadows. Yeah, a pretty girl follows. I'm like, ooh, what's this? But not anymore because I have a pretty girl.
Well, now, of course.
Now I can't be looking at other pretty girls. That's not good.
No.
But but no,
if a pretty girl follows us, we just kick them out.
I actually I just got that. I actually followed her on my main, and she was one of the only people that know my main, or that knew it at the time. Now I made it a public, but
right.
It was a private account at the time.
And you're talking about, can I say what it is, or should I not say what it is?
Oh, you're good.
So you're talking about your Bride Dog account, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Bride Dog.
Okay, Bride Dog.
It's a good name.
Yeah, I like it. It's catchy. Yeah.
Anyway,
now, wait a second. Does your girlfriend call you Bride Dog?
No.
Nobody calls him Bride Dog.
No one calls him Bride. Okay, so it's one of those things where he created a name. Okay, yeah. Okay.
I visited California a long time ago. It was like, who knows when. And I was hanging out with my cousin, and he called me Bride Dog. I don't know why, but that just stuck. It was my Xbox username. It was everything from that day on.
Gotcha.
I liked it.
Fun.
But
all right. Well, yeah, I love that story. And I know we're going to be talking more about your girlfriend later, but that's a coming attraction. Yeah, we'll get to that. Before we get to that story, though, and some others, let's talk about some fun, kind of quicker questions that usually get some good discussion. So, all right, I have to qualify this next one for you, Brian, because it could be the story, and you know what I'm talking about. We're going to talk about later. Video you released that it could be this is the answer, but try to think of something else. Okay. What has been your craziest moment on a coaster?
Craziest moment? No doubt about it. We went to the SeaWorld we went to the Busch Gardens Food and Wine Festival.
Yes.
That night they were hosting obviously their event, but they also allowed ERT on Iron Gwazi. And me and him got 15 rides without leaving the train that night.
That's awesome.
It was pretty incredible.
Yeah, we never even left the seat. It was fantastic.
Yeah. And at one point we got a Zen ride, met up like all tons of different friends that jumped onto our train, but we just sat in the back for 15 rides, and
that's awesome.
It was a great
time. Got row 12? You got row 12, 15 rides?
The whole
time. And the ride operator was helping us. He was like the event was almost over, and he's like, okay, we're at 14. Let me call the people up in the panel to see if we can run one more.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I was just glad that I could still hang, because I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to hang.
Oh, it was amazing.
That was good.
That's probably got to be my craziest moment, is just those 15. That was like wild. It felt weird using my legs again afterwards, because we were on that train for like an hour and a half. It was
that's really cool. that was a great event. I was there too. I brought my buddy Zach with me, and we were invited to Coaster Challenge, of course, and we rode Iron Gwazi a few times. We sat on it a couple times, so the thing is that there were, I mean, I saw a whole bunch of friends there, but in terms of like our group that was hanging out pretty much the whole time together, there were like 4 or 5 of us. And so we were like doing the food stuff and the drinks. And, we early on, we did Serengeti Flyer, which is amazing. So we didn't spend as much time as you guys did on Gwazi, but it was so great, no line and night rides. And that night was a real treasure. I mean, I've been to special events. I went to the Coaster Radio meetup last year. That was at Busch Gardens, and that event was great. But we didn't get the night rides we got on Gwazi. Like we did at that Food and Wine event. Thanks. We're very very good partners with a number of parks here at Coaster Challenge, and the Seas parks certainly are among them. They're really kind to invite us to media events and going to Dark Coaster here pretty soon. This tells you when we're recording this. I'm excited to do that as part of the beginning of my road trip I'm doing in May and early June. And Pipeline got invited to that. We were talking about that before recording. And again, it's great to be a part of these media events. And again, we love promoting the SeaWorld parks, and they're great parks. We're lucky to have 2 great ones here in Florida. So
like it's been pretty wild, and I'm just extremely thankful for these parks for even giving a small channel like us a chance with some of these things. Like I was shocked. I felt like a small fish in a big pond when I was at the Pipeline Hard Hat tour with you.
Oh yeah, that was great meeting you that first time. Yeah.
But like I was there all on my own. There was only one person invited, so he couldn't come along with me to help me film B-roll or stuff. It was a weird moment because I was surrounded by a lot of big names, all the guys were there. Obviously Amusement Insider, Dan from Midway. I saw Rob Alvey a couple times, was talking with him. But like it was wild that I was one of the people there. Yeah. I'm incredibly lucky to even have these opportunities. I'm so thankful for these parks.
Yeah, genuinely so thankful to them. I don't.
Yeah.
And they're so kind. They're just so kind. Like we've built, of course it's just because we're new, maybe, I don't know, but like we're
more welcome.
But maybe I think it pays to always be kind, but we always, of course, go out of our way to try to find the people that have their names attached to the emails that like have emailed us and communicated with us, just to thank them. And
I do the same thing.
Built some amazing relationships that, I mean, are pretty just continue to bear fruit, whether they're just laughs or gracious invites. It's been fantastic.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's been great too. And I've been doing this a little bit longer than you guys, but it's not too much longer. I've been doing this for about 5 years. The podcast for a couple, but YouTube, Coaster Challenge before that. And certainly with the podcast, what I've been doing is I go and make sure to try to meet them, whoever it is, because these parks, there is sometimes a fair amount of turnover in the PR departments. It's just a lot of parks, not just the Seas parks, are like that. A lot of them are, I've noticed, and to meet whoever the new person is, or maybe it's a new assistant that gets hired, but also what we're fortunate is we are able to build stronger relationships with these same people because we're all about promoting and so forth. So it's not just we don't just go to media events. We have had SeaWorld here on the podcast. We've had Knott's Berry Farm. We've had Alice Wonderland. We've had a whole bunch of parks. We've not had Busch Gardens Tampa yet, but we are working on something big that we're hoping we can make happen that involves them. I'm not going to say what it is. We're still working on that one. That's been a tough cookie to crack. Certainly someone that works there that's very busy, but we're hoping to make that happen. There's signs we may be able to. But my point is that we get a lot of these same people on the podcast and we talk to them, and we interview them. We go through this personal interview that we're kind of finishing up with you guys, and then we talk about the parks. We had a great interview with Kyle Smith from SeaWorld Orlando last year, and talking all about the entertainment side of SeaWorld, and which he's one of the managers there. And so we make these personal relationships. And whenever I see Kyle he's usually at the media events, and say hi, and it's just nice to build these relationships. It's one of the things I've really valued from being a part of this podcast, is getting the people. Again, it's just like being a Thuzy. It's getting to know people, getting to know you guys. And I treasure that. So, and you guys, I think what your secret is you're new, but I think it's that you guys have such a great positive attitude. And because that attitude, it's not just something that I see in person. I see it in your videos. I see it in your posts. And that's huge.
Nice.
So, keep it
I really
going.
appreciate that, because we do strive for that.
Mhm.
We try to always be a source of positivity. We even don't try and like trash on parks or rides, both to maintain like a good media relationship. It's like, oh, I don't want to invite this guy who's constantly dumping on all my rides, but like, it's like, I just want to be a voice of positivity, and I don't want people to come to my channel just to be slammed with negativity. I'd rather them leave with a smile.
Mhm.
That's great. That's a good way to kind of live by, so to speak, or act by. That's awesome. That's awesome. So James, was the ERT, so to speak, at Food and Wine on Iron Glass, was that your craziest moment as well, or something else?
Yeah, I mean, outside of that, I used to go to a Catholic school in Southern California, and I remember we would just get off of school on every saint's birthday, and my buddy was in the search and rescue for Long Beach, and this was after 9/11, so they would give all of anybody that was affiliated with the firefighters free admission. And so I'd hop in his truck after at 11 o'clock after our little Catholic mass or whatever celebration, and then we'd drive down to Knott's Berry Farm, and we would just marathon Ghost Rider, marathon it. It was fantastic. But I'd say that your Iron Gwazi ride, I'll never forget that.
Yeah, definitely an unforgettable night.
That's awesome. Those are great positive moments. I love it.
Yeah. I think it's also really awesome that I get to share all this with my dad. Like, I've told a lot of people, obviously he's still my dad, and there's moments where he's my dad, but a lot of times he's really just like my best friend.
Exactly.
And
love it.
Being able to share this journey with him, I've been able to really feel that so much more amplified now. And it's really awesome.
We're always talking about ideas, what do we want to do for this? We're always talking about ideas, what can we do next?
Yeah.
And Brian's not 21, so what do you do when you're 21? You go to Vegas.
Yes.
I went to Vegas on my 21st
Love
birthday.
Vegas.
So Brian's like, yeah, I want to go. We should totally film some stuff there. I'm like, yeah, but you probably want to go to Vegas by yourself with some friends, not your dad, not with cameras. And he's like, no, I want to go with you. And I'm like, all right, we'll see.
And it's funny because he's like, oh yeah, and you gamble. And I'm like, dude, I want to ride Canyon Blaster.
Nice. Love it. Yeah, no, I love Vegas. I'm going there. Already got plans to go there twice later this year in the fall. Are you guys into music? Into concerts and stuff like that, or
want to go to more?
I think my love of 90s, 2000s alternative rock has really rubbed off on Brian, and that seems to be all he listens to now.
Okay, well,
it works for me.
This is a little quick aside here, so we're talking about Vegas. I started alluding to this earlier. So I love symbolism. I'm very, the human psyche, one of the forms of almost universal positivity for human beings, for our minds, is nostalgia. We're all, we crave nostalgia. It's that positivity from the past and all that. But I love symbolism and things like that as well. And so I've got this ultimate nostalgia, symbolism, plus my love of technology and Vegas, and all these things come together. Have you guys heard of it's called the MSG Sphere, Madison Square Garden Sphere. So David, of all people, speaking of my friendship with David here on the podcast, without David, I might not know about this. And I'm really thankful. I know he's usually listening in the background, but I'm so thankful to David. I've been keeping him up to date on my plans around this because he told me about it about a year ago. And I was like, how have I not heard of this? And one of the main reasons I've been to Vegas in a while. I love Vegas. I haven't been there in a few years. So for our listeners, what MSG Sphere is, Madison Square Garden, of course, they own Madison Square Garden, New York. They have expanded their media empire beyond the actual Madison Square Garden. They have other, properties and so forth. And one of the ones that they are building and opening this year is the Madison Square Garden Sphere, which is the largest Sphere theater. I mean, not that there's many of them anyway, in the world. And it is not just a spherical theater, and you're inside the sphere. It's about 14,000 seats, but it is going to be the most technologically advanced theater in the world. And it's gonna have like rumble seats, and it has like 26,000 speakers. It has more speakers than there are people in the audience, so that basically no matter where you're sitting, you're going to get a perfect audio. It's got a giant, like, whole sphere on the inside is this giant screen. The acoustics are supposed to be amazing because it's a sphere, and that's great for acoustics. Just all these crazy things, and it's cost over $2 billion. And anyway, so I'd heard about it, and I'd been like, when I learn about interesting things, I put them into my my task to check on it periodically, like look up, when is that opening? What's going on with that? Anyway, so I was looking it up like literally a week ago, and literally they're saying tickets are about to go on sale. I'm like, oh, I very timely looked it up. I had not looked it up in months. And they're opening with this pre-recorded movie that Darren Aronofsky, who's a very famous director, it has made to show on the big screen inside the sphere. And that's awesome. And I've already got tickets for that. But a day before that, I just got tickets for both of these today. I am doing something that I'm so excited for because it's going to be so symbolic and nostalgic for me, on top of being technologically amazing. The first concert I ever saw in my life was at the Madison Square Garden in New York City in 1992. I was a senior in high school. And one of my good friends of mine and I, she was actually my prom date later on. She and I went to see U2 Octung Baby, that was their that was the big tour and the album back then. And it was still one of my most favorite concerts I ever went to. It was nosebleed seats. I didn't care. We had a great time. And here we are now, the Madison Square Garden Sphere, same organization. They are debuting, their opening giant act for this Sphere is I think 12 concert U2 limited residency. And U2 has had many albums of theirs. They're one of my favorite bands of all time. Yeah. And they could do Joshua Tree, whatever. They could do older albums. They could do newer albums than Octung Baby. But they are, for whatever reason, it was a great tour. They are doing their Octung Baby set list, the same concert I saw for my first concert, at this most advanced theater in the world. And so I just got tickets to see it in late October. And anyway, I'm so excited because I love themed entertainment in general.
That's amazing.
Not just the coasters, So anyway, so Vegas is awesome. And when you guys go to Vegas, 21st birthday, I'll tell you what it's like, if I thought it was as amazing as it sounds when I do it this year. But if it's anything like it sounds, you should go do it. Sure. Sounds amazing. But anyway,
Vegas is amazing. No. And I mean, I can't wait. Even though I'm sad to hear that the Mirage volcano is going away, I know that they're going to replace it with another hard rock guitar tower.
Hotel. That thing is
Well, I love the Mirage. I remember going there right after first open. I used to go to Vegas a lot in the 90s, and the volcano was awesome in themed entertainment. And also I love Siegfried and Roy. I saw them twice. I love Magic, and I love the tigers and the white lions, and they have the dolphins in the back, all the animals. It was like SeaWorld there. It was like going to SeaWorld to Busch Gardens.
Oh, it was.
The animals, and that's gone away, I think.
I went when I was growing up. Las Vegas was being marketed to families.
Yeah.
And so I remember I have those. I have credits at the MGM Grand Adventures theme park.
Yes, me too. I went there.
I think it's called Lightning Rod or Lightning Bolt or something like that.
Lightning Bolt. Yeah. That was a cool, quirky little part. Yeah, but I think most of the animals, if not all of them, are gone now. It's been a long time since I've been to Mirage, but I love the Hard Rock chain. I love their casinos, and their hotels are awesome. And I am totally here for that giant guitar. I'm totally here for that.
Great over in Fort Lauderdale. So
funny you were mentioning concerts. To tie back to theme parks, my first and only concert I've been to was at SeaWorld.
Which concert was it?
we saw, I don't know if you're familiar with the 90s like rock band. Are you familiar with Everclear?
Yeah, I am familiar with Everclear. Yeah.
So he took me to see them, and this was like when I was kind of getting into that music scene.
Oh yeah.
I had like the time of my life. That was great. We got floor seats.
It was
great.
You also sat next to a guy that I'm pretty sure was pretty drunk, but he was so much fun. And by sitting next to was not even really happening because he was there with his girlfriend or wife or something, but he paid more attention to Brian and they were like jumping the whole time.
It was a great time.
Oh, it was so funny. Like they were so sweaty. His shirt was off, and like it was the best time because Everclear is still like their fan base is getting a little older. It was kind of a little bit more of a mellow crowd.
Right.
You were like wild. It was
great.
It was great.
That's still rock for being 60. And the dude has MS, but he rocked out, and that was awesome.
He did.
That's too fun. I mean, I've seen a lot of great concerts over the years. I love going to concerts, but some of the good ones I've seen have been at theme parks. I just went with some friends. We was very kind. Another park that's the Friends of Coaster Challenge, had them on here on the podcast. They have comped both David previously, and then they comped myself and my friends, 3 friends, into the park Wild Adventures. And not only did they comp us in last weekend, but they gave us a reserved seating for the Styx concert, which was fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Yeah, it was a basic venue, didn't have the best acoustics. It's a theme park, but it was so great. It was so much fun, a great set, and the Styx was like so energetic.
Yeah.
And it was such great. It's so great. And I saw Seal last year at Universal for their one of their Mardi Gras concerts. He was fantastic. I had seen Seal years ago in the late 90s, actually early 2000s, sorry, in San Diego. But this concert that he did at Universal was much more energetic, even though it had been years. He was really into it. And so great concerts at parks, even these free concerts. But going back to what you guys were saying, something really poignant about how you like consider yourself like best friends. I can relate to that. My mom was unfortunately no longer alive anymore. She wasn't a coaster person. She would do like smaller coasters. She loved the Cyclone. She grew up in Brooklyn. That's talking about nostalgia. She grew up with the Cyclone, and I always ride the Cyclone when I'm there for her. But she didn't like inversions. That was not her thing. She never conquered that fear. But I love coasters, but I also love parks. I love theme entertainment. I love the parks, and all the shows and the theming and the parades and all that. And that stuff, that other stuff, is what she loved. And she loved taking me to the county fair and all the great food and all the great things to see, and the magician and the hypnotist. And, she really got me. She always took me to the circus when I was a kid and all that kind of stuff. And because she was so adventurous, that's where my sense of adventure comes from. We'd always go on adventures together, and she was my best friend. So I can totally relate to how you guys are. And I think that's a great relationship to have with a parent, where you can have a lot more respect that way.
Yeah.
And it makes working together a lot easier.
Because you guys aren't just father-son. You guys are working a channel together. That's a really
we work the channel together. And it's funny, we'll have our creative differences, and every week we make it a thing. And this started probably over a year ago now. It's been like 2 years that we've been doing this. Every week we go to Starbucks and we just take a walk. Just talk about all sorts of things. It used to kind of just be about life. Now a lot of it has been taken over just by like creativity and like, what are we looking at creating this week,
What story do you want to tell?
But it's always been a great like building like block in our relationship.
That's awesome.
The communication has been key. I mean, if there's anything that we've learned a little, like, and we touched on it earlier, is building that relationship with parks and friends in the community, like. And that all stems from communication, getting out there and just saying hello to somebody. And if it's me and Brian, it's being fearless enough to share an idea, even though it might be bad, or you might think it's stupid, but there are no stupid ideas.
Exactly.
Because your stupid idea could morph into a fantastic idea.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's great. And walking is a great way to kind of think about things. I know David and I both are big walkers, and we'll think about things a lot on those walks, come up with ideas, jot them down, we get back, and individually we've done walks together too. But also David and I because again, we're the two executive producers of the podcast. A lot of the ideas and decisions and directions that the podcast goes in come from us. And then we also have monthly staff meetings with the rest of the staff, Kim and Michael and the rest of the team. But David and I, we're both night owls, and I can be up really late, not every night because I get my sleep, but I'm up sometimes 3, 4 in the morning doing what I'm doing. And David's on the West Coast and he's a night owl, but he's 3 hours behind me. So I can, if I want to, if I'm on the car coming back from somewhere late at night or whatever, I can always call him and chat because he's up. And we sometimes have multiple times in a week. And, sometimes it's just chewing the fat, just kind of talking about whatever's been going on. But a lot of times we come to the channel, we talk about Coaster Challenge, talk about the podcast, and come up with ideas. And it'll be his idea and I flesh it out. My idea, he fleshes it out. And that's how our new series that we're debuting here this year as part of the Coaster Challenge Network, Trimming for Coasters, getting fit for coasters, that came from one of those late night chats. And
I love the name too. Usually you want to avoid trims, but these trims sound good.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So I'm a pretty modest person, but since you said it, I thank you, because one of my contributions to this effort, to this new series, was I came up with a name, and I'm really proud of it. I'm usually pretty good with names. I'm funny. I like double entendres, and no, thank you, Brian. But no, I'm there's certain things I'm not good at in life. I suck as an athlete. I don't have balance, but I tend to.
Brian sucks as an athlete.
I thought I was good at basketball.
No, you never were.
But yeah, there's something about, I've got this knack for names. So, I do work in marketing sometimes at part-time with my role. So, I guess I just have this thing. But anyway, no, thank you. I really appreciate that. That means a lot. So,
awesome.
Talking about a lot of positivity. So let's have a big positive question here. So I think I know the answer for both of you. And I let me see if I always like guessing. And I think it's different. For each of you has a different answer, but what is your favorite coaster? Let's see if I got it right.
Fury 325.
Iron Gwazi.
Oh, both of those are wrong. Okay, all right.
Really?
I thought now Fury is new, but wasn't Gwazi before your favorite?
Gwazi was my number one, but man, my rides on Fury were just too good.
Okay, no, that's awesome. Fury is a great number one, and so I was partially right there because it was Iron Gwazi was your number one until recently. And for some reason, James, I had in my mind that Velocicoaster is your number one.
No, there was that battle at first, but when I get off of Velocicoaster, I love my smile is huge, but I know what I just experienced. I still can't get off of Iron Gwazi, understanding fully what just happened on a summer night ride. It's just
right.
Something else.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. I definitely get what you're saying. I can relate to that. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So what would you say is your least favorite coaster?
It's closed now.
Oh, did they just announce it being closed?
They just announced it. Well, no, not that one. Not
that one.
Not either.
But just recently. It'll reopen much better.
It'll blow your mind.
Oh. So Mind Blower is your least favorite.
Blow your mind.
Blow your mind. That's
Yeah. Well, Kim, one of the other producers of the podcast, she does not like that ride. It's rough, and she calls. It's mine, MINE. I gotta hand it to Fun Spot for again. I love names. I love double entendres. I love that, and that is a great double entendre. And unfortunately, it's a very living up to its name double entendre.
Oh yeah.
Because Kim talks about it being a mind MIND blower because it gives you a headache.
Yes.
So
that thing rattled my whole skeleton.
And I find it hard to I know I just said some mean things about Revolution and Ninja, but they're fun. But I find it hard to call a coaster bad. There's even it might be small, it might not be the fastest.
Yeah.
Well, but they're still fun. But oh my goodness, Mind Blower! I've never shaken so violently in my life. I'm so happy that they're giving it the RMC treatment because
it's funny. Yeah. Before we rode Mind Blower, I was pretty convinced that there's no such thing as a bad coaster.
Agree.
and it gets a roller coaster. You have fun. And how can you not have fun on a roller coaster until that?
Yeah, no, I totally can understand. I remember first riding it in, oh gosh, I was with Austin and Kaylin and Mark. We were coming back from a media event. This was during the pandemic because we'd gone to, you guys ever heard of Scream and Stream?
No.
It's do you cover haunts? You into haunts at all? Or?
No, we don't talk
about okay. It's an independent haunt that popped up during the pandemic. It was like a drive-through haunt. So it's safe during the pandemic and all that. But I got invited to the media event and I took, Austin, Mark, and Kaylin. But I remember we were coming back from it because one thing that's great about Fun Spots are open late, open until midnight. Yeah. And we were meeting up with I think Tim from Coaster Crew, Tim Holleran. And I had never been to that Fun Spot. I'd been to Orlando, and they were talking about getting a ride on Mind Blower. And I'm like, I still haven't ridden Mind Blower. And I lived in Florida for a while. And anyway, so I rode it, and it was great. It rode well. Wooden coasters have to be really rough for me to not like them.
Yeah.
So there's not many that I don't like, but it was not rough. But then I've ridden it, I have a Fun Spot pass now, and I've ridden it several times since then. A friend comes to visit, they need the credit, we ride it, and it's getting rough and rougher and rougher. And it is a great candidate, not to get RMC'd, iBoxed, but it is a great candidate for 208 track.
Yes.
And as far as I know, I've not ridden a Coast with 208 track. It's fairly brand new technology.
Yeah.
It's their Titan track. And I'm excited to see what it's going to do to the coaster.
Yeah. My only RMC is still Iron Gwazi. So I'm pretty young in coaster enthusiasm.
Right.
The only RMC I've ridden is Iron Gwazi.
That's right. You've not ridden any others yet. Well, I mean, it's great that you've ridden the best RMC already.
Yeah, exactly.
I agree.
Yeah, because I have my RMC opinions, but most of them I love, not all of them, but I think Iron Gwazi is the best for sure. Yep. But yeah. Okay, so Mind Blower hopefully be getting better soon. So let's switch gears here and let's talk. We've talked a lot about you guys as individuals, and you're best friends, father son. But let's talk about the other thing that you guys share together, which is your channel. So Zooder Loopers, that's the name of your channel, has been around, only about a year now. Mm-hmm. But it's had a lot of great success, and I think you guys have already answered this question. But I'm curious if there's anything else you think besides the positivity and all that, and the friendliness that you guys have. Is there anything else that you would credit for the success of your channel?
I'd say we hold an extreme determination, and we hold ourselves to a very high standard. We kind of all expect a lot out of each other in a way that doesn't put each other off, but it constantly challenges us to be better.
Right.
Yeah, there's not a photo, a reel, a YouTube video that doesn't go out without all of us looking at it, and we pick each other apart. A lot. And
right.
And so, but it's all done with the intention to just improve.
Yeah.
And so
I'd say constructive criticism is
it's not sometimes
best friend,
and sometimes it's not received well.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm not ready to hear him and he's not ready to hear me. And it takes a day or two.
Yeah, bro, I just spent 5 hours editing this. You don't like this and this and this. Man, why did we film this in the first place?
Yep. But I think I don't know. I guess I hope that what comes across in what we do is just that we really like what we're doing. We're not very experienced in this coaster enthusiast world, but we have a perspective. Mm-hmm. And it's a perspective that a lot of people share when they're just starting out also. And hopefully people will want to see what it's like again. If you're new, you'll maybe relate to it. And if you're a seasoned veteran of roller coasters, maybe it'll bring back some feels. But this is how we feel hitting our first 100 or going on a giga for the first time.
Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah, you guys bring a freshness to things because you are fairly new to the scene, and it's a different perspective. You're not jaded in any ways, and yeah, that's interesting. Now, just as you were answering that question, somebody came to my mind that I want to mention to you. So I know you guys have got the YouTube, I've watched some of your videos, and obviously Instagram, that's a huge thing for you, and you guys do a great job. You get all that positivity and the fun posts, and I've been like, it's been quite a while now that I've been following you, probably since the early days. Yeah. And I'm like, I want to meet those guys, and now I've got to meet you guys, and you guys, didn't disappoint. You guys are awesome and fun. It's great talking and everything. But the thing I thought of beyond what you're already doing, you guys have this great dynamic with each other. And as you pointed out, you've got this kind of unique perspective because you're kind of new to the scene and, just experiencing a Giga for the first time. And, a lot of people that have channels, they did a lot of these things for the first time before they had their channels. So they already were they weren't fresh. Mm-hmm. So similarly, most podcasts are, people aren't talking about, I just experienced a Giga for the first time, or, this and that. Have you guys, with your dynamic and how outgoing and friendly you guys are, our podcast, our style is, for the most part, except for special episodes, we have one of us, one of our producers, say myself here, for example, interviewing someone that's not on the podcast, that's, not from our team, guests and so forth. But, a lot of podcasts I listen to, some coaster ones, etc. They don't necessarily have guests on normally. Mm-hmm. It's more, it's sort of like the Morning Zoo or like Coaster Radio, where it's two people, two really good friends that are into coasters, and they talk with each other and they talk about news or whatever. But I could see the two of you, maybe you could have a guest on here and there, but I could see the two of you just foiling off of each other, talking, like you could do an episode. We just wrote our first Giga, and that could be the episode, talking about your trip to Carowinds. And so I think you guys would be
funny. It's so funny you say that. We've been nibbling on something similar to that maybe we want to kind of put out there, because one thing that I think I lied about at the very beginning of starting this was, I don't think we were honest with ourselves that we really wanted it to be successful. Yeah. We just wanted it to be fun, right? And I think a lot of people do that. But at the same time, they want to be successul. But what does success look like? And maybe it's monetization on YouTube. Maybe it's hitting 1,000 subscribers, or something like that. And which we just hit and we're super thankful for. Yeah. But awesome. I think everything changed when we realized, okay, we do actually want to do something. What we're passionate about is having fun as a family and telling stories. And so how can we tell stories and present it to everybody and do well with it? And so hopefully like we've almost kind of said, we might need to unapologetically try to get more folks to try to find us, because we love making what we make and the stories that we tell. And so to your point that you were saying, that could be a dynamic, our walks that we take every week. Yeah. We were thinking about, what if we just put a camera down when we talk? And could that be interesting? So we have been playing with it. We have been playing with the idea.
It's been an idea.
So in other words, you could do like a wearable GoPro or something, and then while you're walking, it would be filming you or something like that, right?
Yeah. Our vision without, like, we've been really, Brian has always been a lover of art, and he's drawn and he's worked with sculptures and he's done all the things that kids do, right? Yeah. And it's all been good. No offense, Brian. It's all been good. But like, out of nowhere, I know.
What are you trying to say?
It's good. It's good. But it's good. But
this is the Morning Zoo stuff I'm talking about right here.
But since you started editing our videos, and I don't know if I'm saying it because I'm your dad, but I think they're phenomenal. And I think you have a natural eye for what you want to see and putting it into a film. And with no training and no school on that matter, I think you've done really good. So I love him exploring that field and seeing how can you get this new shot and how can we tell this story. So that's our biggest hurdle. We have a story that we want to tell, but we want it to be a little bit more interesting than just a stationary camera.
Yeah.
Right. Interesting. Well, that's very, very intriguing. I'm looking forward to seeing how you guys kind of evolve that and different things you try. And, you know, some things you're going to try may not work well.
Yeah.
That's okay. You learn from it. You try something else.
Totally. We love it. It's okay.
Yeah. No, I'm looking forward to that. That's awesome. That's awesome. And very cool. Very cool. So what would you say, you know, we've already talked about, again, you guys are father-son team. You look at each other as best friends, but you know, even friends can have challenges. And you were talking a little bit earlier about how sometimes there's some hurt feelings. You know, Brian, you said, I worked on that for 5 hours and you're criticizing it and all that. But, you know, besides those sort of things, you know, is there anything else you'd like to share about what it's like for a father-son team to be running a channel like that, a Coaster channel on YouTube and Instagram and whatnot?
I'd say it's one of the best things we could have done, because, you know, when you go into something with like a friend, you can't really, and even if it's like a friend that you've known all your life, I know I can trust him with anything, you know, so I know I can really come to him with any idea and any vision, and he'll hear me out. He doesn't have like anything against me. He shares the same vision that I have and the same goals that I have, because I mean, I've expressed it before. My goal is to be able to make doing YouTube my career. That's my end goal. And he fully supports that. And I just think that's awesome. The fact that I can have this bond with my dad that not a lot of people get to have. The fact that like I could tell my friends like, oh yeah, guess where I'm going this weekend? I'm going to SeaWorld twice and Busch Gardens. Like it's a really cool thing. And like I don't want to flex my dad relationship, but it's awesome. It's been really nothing but positive.
That's fantastic. So Brian, you mentioned about you know, your dad supporting you and you wanting to do like YouTube as a career. Do you mean that just that, or are you thinking perhaps in general, like filmmaking, you know, getting maybe documentaries, you know, maybe things that are not just on the YouTube platform? Is that like video, or?
I mean, I just have a passion for storytelling and being able to tell that through YouTube has just been such a great platform to tell my stories through cinematography and take people along on these journeys, you know? And it's wild that I could just pick up a camera, talk to it, and tell a story to a whole ton of people. The fact that 1,000 people follow us, and we had a friend of ours who told us a while back, he's like, I always tell this to people who have smaller followings, even if you have 300 followers, imagine how overwhelming it would be if there's 300 people in front of you. And I just thought about that recently. Like, imagine if I was trying to film and there were 1,000 people just staring at me. And so it's pretty wild.
No, that's great. And I love your focus on storytelling because, you know, a good video is a story. These podcast episodes, these interviews that we do, they are stories. You know, we're telling people stories. We're, in many cases, we are helping people tell a story they didn't know they had. A lot of people don't think about the fear journeys that they've been through and the significance of their love of parks, and that parks not just being about having fun. Like, look at you, Brian, how, you know, you talked about, you know, you met your girlfriend because of your love of coasters. And, you know, and you know, James, you're talking about with Mako, you know, the religious experience that you had because of Mako and your, you know, how a new form of faith for you, you know, and that's really powerful. And so, I mean, this is, you know, storytelling is incredible. And that's why I love movies. And that's another one of my passions, because I love good storytelling. And I have to ask you guys, just because I have to bring this up. So you guys are obviously very active on Instagram. Do you know of two people by the name of Christian and Morgan Duffy? Christian's Instagram channel is christian.mov. You guys follow them at all? Have you heard of them? They own a company called Escape Visuals.
I don't know them. No, I don't know them.
Well, you know, but for both of you and me, especially for you, Brian, given what you want to do with your career, and again, these are two more people that, again, I'm not just saying this, they're on my list. Literally, I just talked to Christian on the phone yesterday, talking about, you know, trying to schedule him. They travel a lot. And it's like, Christian, I need you to be nailed down somewhere where we know you have good internet. I want to do the interview with both of you. But Christian's such a strong personality. I have to interview them separately. I have to do 2 separate interviews. But anyway, Christian and Morgan, they're a husband and wife, and they're in their mid-20s, not much older than you, Brian. And they own a production company that makes, amongst other things, commercials for theme parks, for coaster companies.
I just followed them.
Yeah, no, you'll love their content.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, they started their company 5 years ago or so, and it has exploded. Husband and wife, again, like you guys, father and son. Fathers and sons, they can, especially teenagers. No offense, Brian. You can have strife and hormones and all that stuff. But the fact that you guys work together and you travel, again, that's a great sign. Likewise, Christian and Morgan, they're married, and not only do they live together, but they travel all over the world together for work, and they work 20 hours a day together. That's some of the hardest working people I know. But what strikes me, and I have to introduce them, and then Christian and Morgan, they're 2 of my closest friends in Orlando. Don't see them all the time because they're traveling a lot. But when they're home, we hang out all the time. I want you guys to meet them because we've got a lot of similar perspectives and value systems. I'll say that much. But also they love the parks. They do resorts, water parks, everything. But they are storytellers. They love telling a story. And Morgan's more on the business side, but she's creative too. But Christian, he's the idea guy, really. He's the big idea guy, and he's the one that comes up with these brilliant ad campaigns. And they work with all the parks, all the coaster manufacturers, the water parks, Pro Slides, Whitewater, everything. So I want to introduce you guys. I think maybe Brian, there's might be a connection for you, especially.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyway, but quick aside. But this is what I love doing. Aside from the social aspects of the hobby of the podcast, I love making connections between people. Yeah. Friends that I have I have separate friends, and I've done this so many times, introducing them because I know they'll get along, and then they become the best of friends. And I'm not the jealous type. I don't get jealous of their own friendship. I love making that happen. Yeah. Similarly, people like working together, collaborating together. I made that happen. What I'm saying, I've made it happen. I've done the introductions, and I love helping facilitate that form of positivity where we make connections in the world. And I see something here, and I can't ignore it. So anyway, we'll have to make that's a quick aside. Yeah, for sure.
We just, when we went to Carowinds, it was our first time traveling to do a media event. And I remember telling the boys before we left, and then after we left, like when we got home, before we left, I said, I want you guys to keep in mind, if this is what you want to do, this is a taste of what you could expect, and just whatever this is, the hardships and the tiredness and the workload and the travel, times it by an exponential amount of numbers, because if you want this to be real, then this is what it's going to be. And at the end of every time we go to film something, I always ask them, did you have fun? Like, was this fun for you?
Yes.
And it's never been not fun. It's always been work.
Yeah.
It's definitely not easy.
No, and we're always like, all right, that was just like 7 hours of work. That was a whole day of work. Yeah. Is this what you want to do?
Yeah.
And it's always just an undeniable yes. It is just like immediately, like before he can even finish it, I'm just like, yes, I love it.
Yeah. I mean, even if it's like 12 hours of us shelling for shark teeth in a beach, getting sunburned, like at the end, I was exhausted. Cool. I'm like, dude, was that fun? Do you see yourself doing this? He's like, yes. And, if you could, I know it's kind of, maybe it's 10 years ago, I think people would have looked at me as a crazy father for saying it, but I don't mind Brian not going to college and pursuing this because what he's learned is networking, which is from somebody who's been in corporate jobs. Dude, networking is 75% of it.
Absolutely. Who it's everything. Yep.
And then, being able to like do the hard work and being able to make those connections, get in the right places, create and push yourself, bro. Like the sky's the limit. If this is what you want to do, you just got to hustle for it. And you're learning so many more things that a degree is nice to hang up on the wall. But you're making some connections that are pretty valuable.
Well, and it's funny, I've always wanted to create content ever since I was a little kid. You know, I grew up watching all sorts of different bloggers, but I've had YouTube channels in the past. This is the first one that's actually seen any sort of success. And it's just wild to see what once was just a childhood dream that I feel like a lot of people can relate to having. It's awesome to see it becoming a reality.
Yeah.
And it just makes me push even harder. I'm at the time of filming this, I'm 2 weeks away from graduation. Actually, like maybe one, and then like 2 days with finals. But like,
congrats.
I'm so close. And as soon as I'm out of school, it's full speed ahead. Like you said, the sky's the limit. I don't see any reason why I should never not have my camera with me.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love it. I love the passion. One of my things that I treasure about myself is my passion. I've said it before on the podcast. I'll say it right here again. One of my biggest idioms or adages I live my life by is a life without passion. A life without passion is a life not lived.
Yeah.
So, and I live in the opposite way of that. But and I do that almost just about every day. And you know, the plans I make for the future, and you know, the things I've got going on. It's it's the whole YOLO. Live like you only live once and all that. But and I see that passion in both you guys, and I love that the passion, for you, Brian. You're excited to graduate. You've worked hard, and now you're like, the world is gonna be your oyster. You're ready to embrace it, and that I love it. Keep that energy up. That's awesome.
Funny,
That's awesome.
we were at Carowinds, and we were taking a photo by Fury, and someone asked we asked a random person to take our photo, and they're like, "Oh, do you want to put the camera to the side?" Dad's like, "No, it's like his accessory." I feel like a little mini figure. You know how the Lego guys are always holding on to something?
Yeah.
I feel like it's right here. I have my camera with me at all times.
Nice. What camera is that, by the way? What do you use?
I use a Nikon Z30.
Nice.
He bought it used.
Yeah.
And it was his own cash. Dad didn't pay for it. It's his passion. I was against it. I was like, keep using iPhone.
Right.
Great. It could do
half of our footage is shot on iPhone.
Yeah. But there's something that the mirrorless and the DSLRs, they just it's a whole list.
It's fun.
Yeah, and then there's all the production grade stuff and all. It's everything. Yeah.
It's been fun having all these little toys.
So Brian, you were talking earlier about what's been most meaningful for you for coasters and parks is meeting your girlfriend.
Yes.
And then you talked about how you asked her out at the top of Mako.
Yep.
Right. So I did not know that until tonight.
Yeah.
And that's a great lead into our next question, because knowing that now, I totally get why. And again, I love symbology, like this whole thing with my first concert, now this concert, you too, it's the same tour, all that. And so the symbology here is fantastic, but I don't want to take your thunder away. So, but let's talk about the elephant in the room here.
Yeah.
So anyway, so you guys recently completed a very special project, the one I'm alluding to, and it was done at Busch Gardens, Tampa, a park that you guys probably spend the most time at is Busch Gardens, right? Of course, because that's your home park. Yeah. So I know what you did. And again, I don't watch a lot of YouTube. That's just me personally. I don't have time. That's why I love podcasts, because I'm driving, I'm running errands, I'm working. And, that's just me though. I'm unique in that way. But I do watch some YouTube, and I've watched some of your videos. And the one I love the best is the one I'm talking about.
Yep.
So tell our listeners what you guys did and how it went.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. First of all, before this, she had only been to Busch Gardens once, and she wrote almost everything, or she had only been to Busch Gardens once recently. The last time was in 2 years. So she hasn't been in a long time, and she specifically hasn't ridden SheiKra. And so prom time was just around the corner. And so I figured, with me setting the bar so high, asking her out on Mako, how can I top this?
What a Lucy statement, bro. Like, you are so high.
Well, it's like, yeah, like quite literally 200 feet high. Like,
continue. Sorry.
What can I possibly do if I just show up at her house with a sign? Like, it's pretty weak.
100%. Agree.
So we got 8 poster boards. And we set them up right on the floor because when Shikra goes right over the edge, you see a path right to your left.
Yeah.
And so right on that path, we set up the 8 poster boards and they said, Naya, will you go to prom with me? And we went a week before. We tested it with some friends. We just got one of the poster boards and wrote the word test.
Yes.
It looked great. And then we did it for the real deal. We actually tried it on Cheetah Hunt before. We tried to put it on the little bridge that Cheetah Hunt goes under.
He was late. Well, we were afraid that you couldn't see it good enough for the camera.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, you can see it in person, but will it show in camera?
And that's the only thing. It does not show well on the camera, which is a major bummer.
Right.
But if
you see her reaction,
and if you pause, you'll see it.
Yep. So it was awesome. She said yes, and it was just an incredible experience. She didn't expect anything, and it was her first time on Shikra in 2 years, so she was already experiencing that adrenaline rush.
That's
then
awesome.
peeking over the edge, she sees that. It was
good.
It was a great moment. Her dad and him set it up at the bottom, so it was funny. Like I walked into the park with her and got her in, and I gave him the backpack just in case the metal detector set off and they start pulling out poster boards.
Right.
Dude, I had to distract her.
Smart. That's good.
I'm also afraid of bringing in the poster boards because it is a SeaWorld park. I don't want them thinking I'm like a protester.
Right. Of course. The last thing you'd want. That's right. It's so true.
So
everything went perfectly though.
Yeah. And I gotta say that, you talked about if you pause, when you're at the top of Shikra there starting to face down, that you can see a reaction. I didn't have to pause it. I saw her reaction.
Excellent.
So she's excited, like, nice. But then it's like, so then, but then it was like no words were said because you fall, it's all of a sudden you're going down the drop. But and then I remember talking to you, watching the video, I remember talking to you sometime afterwards, Brian, and I realized this was kind of like it was like double jeopardy, because it wasn't just, you weren't just asking her to your prom, you were asking kind of to go to her prom too, because she's a year behind you. Yep. So your senior prom and her junior prom.
No. She's also a senior. We just go to different schools.
Oh, it's different schools.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's even bigger than 2 senior proms. Okay.
Yeah. So funny enough, right after the Pipeline Media Day, we aren't going home. We're driving straight to her house.
Straight to her prom.
Because her prom's the next day.
Oh,
so I'm going to be editing in the car, and I'm going to upload that as soon as I get to her house, my Pipeline video.
Nice.
We're also filming a road trip to her house.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Another video for you guys. Again, it's a great story to tell. Yeah. And the other thing I loved about the video, because this could go into a whole like another hour-long conversation. Especially I know the 3 of us have very similar value systems, but one of my issues with society today, and this can get very philosophical, and we don't get into politics, of course, on the show, but how I feel about why gun violence occurs and things like that. Just my personal beliefs, but again, I'm not getting into specifics. But bottom line is, while I'm not a kind of person who must have kids. I part of it is that sort of good selfishness. I like to travel. I like to experience life, and I kind of like just not having that. But at the same time, I do have to say, James, I say this to all parents I know that do a great job, that I have so much respect for parents that do it right. And obviously you've done it right, because look at how Brian's turned out, that, just fantastic. So, and like, the fact of how great you guys get along, and it's just, I love it. It's so inspiring. But I believe that our society would be a lot better if we had more families with good family values, good traditional kind of classic family values, like the family values that I grew up with in the 80s. I hate that, I'm not that old. I'm in my 40s and I'm already kind of feel like I'm one of those like, oh, in my day it was a lot better, kind of thing. But seriously though, it's we need more great family values. And this day and age, parents are like, I don't want my son dating a girl, and all these problems and pregnancy, But here we are, and this is what I was so striking about that video that you guys did. Is it wasn't just that you were supporting Brian James, but Naya's father was there, and like you were, James, you were with him and partners in crime, helping make this happen.
Yeah.
And when do you see that? It's usually, for prom, the guy has to sneak around, and hopefully the girl's parents don't know about it, and so it says everything about how not just for you two, but it sounds like for Naya and her parents and her father, just these great family relationships and respect. And it's just, this again, it's not coasters, it's not parks, at least not directly, but the values here, and just it's that positivity. It's another form of that positivity, and maybe the parks are part of it, because I believe that families that coaster together, they have better quality lives. They have better relationships. As I've seen this again and again, because I've interviewed quite a few families. I used to be more active with the Ace Ride With Us podcast, and I had a segment. In fact, again, modesty aside, talk about names that I created. The name of that segment, that I was a recurring segment on that podcast for quite a while, that I was in charge of, I called it Coasters Run in the Family. Wow. Again, that double entendre. And I have interviewed so many families. The first family I interviewed is actually Elizabeth Ringus, her husband and kids. Elizabeth's the president of ACE now, and I interviewed a whole bunch of different families, brothers and parents and kids, and all of these families. And I have many friends that I've not interviewed as well, that, again, like I said when I introduced you guys, again, that are these family bonds, and it's so much positivity, because we share this great hobby that's fun, that's great for our mental health together, and the road trips and the bonding and all the time to talk and conversation and talk about, what you enjoy, and again, there, and you guys are taking it to a whole nother level, because I don't know of many, there's couples like, boyfriend, girlfriend, or whatever, that work together on channels. But I don't know of any genetic, if you will, families, father, sons, for example, like you guys, that are running a channel together. I don't know if I know of any. There might be, but so you guys take it a whole other level, where you are challenging each other, creativity, and Brian, you're trying to make a career. I did not know half of this before starting this interview today. I just love all of this. It's great.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm glad we could surprise you.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic.
And I agree with you. I think it's funny. When we started, I told Brian, the reason I'm mainly the person that you're talking to whenever you're reaching out to us on Instagram, is because I told him, no, dude, there's so many creeps on the internet. I don't want anybody. Like, no, right. I'm going to weed them out. Out. So typically, if it's like a kid or somebody that like Brian knows, I pass it on to him. If it's somebody else, then I'll look at their profile and be like, all right, I'll talk to Coaster Surf. I don't know who this is, but I'll talk to him. But like, I was against really meeting anybody. I was like, dude, no, I want to be private. I don't want to talk to anybody.
He was against collaborating with people, and man, what was it? Like, there were a couple people where I finally pushed him, like, dude, let's meet up. This person would fit our creative vision for this video. This is how we could utilize their character, and it fit perfectly.
Well, then I opened up my door of like, being so sheltered, but like, to your point, I think that the world can use a little bit more communication with each other. We have a lot more things in common, I think, than we do not have in common. And being part of a coaster community or a theme park community or a Disney community, like you already have one foot in the door. Mm-hmm. Let's get to know each other a little bit more, and we could really start building some really great bonds with each other. When we started, I had no idea that we would be on a podcast talking to you, somebody that we've met and rode coasters with together, and been able to like really get to know a little bit more. And I'm so appreciative of it. And there's several others that we have as well.
Yeah.
And our lives have changed for the better because of it. And I really hope, like, it gives me faith in the world, you know, so that we could keep growing to know each other a little bit more, and hopefully, you know, put down our barriers and be able to find out, you know, what makes each other special, so that we could get together with each other. You wouldn't have been able to be with Naya, and I wouldn't be able to know her dad and her family, and we wouldn't have that relationship if we hadn't just trusted to try to get to know other people. And it's been a blessing.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. It's great. And yeah, I mean, I can relate to, you know, what you said there, especially about the bonds and relationships you make and so forth. Yeah, and sometimes things happen out of nowhere when I least expect them. I was just at a media event, another organization that Coaster Challenge has a great relationship with, is the Wellens Media, and they do, amongst other things, they basically are the PR firm that handles a lot of the organizations that are on International Drive. You know, Icon Park, the Pirates Dinner Theater, which also is the Country Nights Live, and Teatro Martini, and other locations along there, and even in Kissimmee and elsewhere. And they do a great job, and we get invited out to their media events. And I just went to a media event for a new interactive game that's on the wheel at Icon Park. Mm-hmm. And they put on really nice events, and they had it was a breakfast, it was morning time event, and they had, you know, nice, you know, beverages, and, you know, some nice breakfast. And they, not only did they have pastries, but they had servers going around giving people like little mini chicken and waffles, and, you know, it was almost like a fancy party.
Cool.
And I took a couple friends that were visiting from Ohio with me as my guests, and we had a great time. And I never expected this, but I ran into a friend of ours of the podcast, the final guest we had on our first season, Lee Cockrell, who is the former executive vice president of Disney World. And David and I have gotten to hang out with him several times, breakfast a couple times, and there he was. Lee was there, and we got to say hi and introduce my friends. We talked for 15 minutes, and, you know, we took our picture together. And he's just talk about positivity and wisdom. Lee's been around the block a few times, and he's retired now from Disney, but he is so wise. And if you guys have not heard his episode, it's the last episode of season 1, and this is for you guys, Brian and James, but also our listeners. Go back and listen to that one. You know, all of our episodes, I think, are great for one reason or another, but he is so great he gives so much advice the entire interview. It's not just that question that's coming up for you guys here, you know, what advice can you give those that are listening? But it makes sense, because he does leadership seminars. That's what he does now in his retirement for fun, travels all over the world doing that. And he's just such a wise person, and I think you guys would really get a kick out of his interview. Yeah. And he's funny too. He's a nice guy, and he's just a fun guy to talk to. But anyway, ran into him at that media event, and he has a partnership with Icon Park I didn't know about. And I was like, wow, you know, it's just these connections and these meaningful relationships that come from this hobby that's all about having fun. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, you can't beat that, you know. So yeah, and you guys will be, you know, meeting more and more people, and I'm you know, again, I'm happy to introduce you to people. I'm already talking about Christian Morgan and others, and you, but, you know, forget about me. I'm just one person. You guys are gonna, because of how you conduct yourselves, your positivity, your attitudes, your creativity, you know, how outgoing you are, all those things, put those together, you guys are going to be meeting more people and making more connections. And Brian, and your personal career, trying to, you know, making this into a career yourself, I think you're going to go places for sure.
Oh, yeah, I appreciate that.
Absolutely. You've got the talent and the attitude. And if you've got talent and attitude, you're done. That's all you need. So
yeah. Well, and on top of that, I really have the drive to make this work, like, no matter what.
Nice. You'll do it. You'll definitely do it. And I'm happy to try and help. And again, I think I have some ideas. We'll talk about that offline. But any case, Just a couple more questions for you guys here. So our next question is the Dusty Lystra question. Dusty is was one of our first guests, one of our first friends of the podcast, fans of the podcast, of the channel before we were a podcast, before David and I met. He's known David for years, and unfortunately he passed away last year at 16. Very, very tragic. And so we have a question to honor him and to really consider mortality, and that, who knows how long our lives are going to be. So, I think one of the things, and this is why David came up with this question, when you think about mortality, one of the most important things to think about is, what is your legacy going to be? And the one way you can measure your legacy is those that knew you, how are they going to remember you? So for each of you, and of course, this is very much an individual question, so please both answer. How would you like your family, your friends, your colleagues to remember you by?
Well, and I think he might agree with me on this, but obviously there's a bunch of crazy things that I want to do. And there's like this whole career that I've been talking about. But it all ties back into the main reason why I could do this, and tying back to everything he was saying about being able to, if you could trust a restraint, you could trust God. I want to tie it back into the only reason I've been able to do this is because it's all been an incredible blessing from God. And I've been blessed with an amazing family. I've been blessed with countless incredible opportunities. And it's all just been incredible. It's really wild. If you put your faith in him, everything falls into place.
That's great.
And so I guess that's what I want people to remember me by, not by my feats, but what caused me to achieve those.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. And again, like I said, I'm not necessarily the most religious person, but maybe this is kind of along those lines, Brian. We keep talking about positive attitudes. I believe in karma, which maybe that could be a religious type thing. Maybe it is religion that really is responsible for karma and how it works. But I believe with a positive attitude, so many things can happen. And maybe that is God's involved with that. Maybe God says, okay, that he has learned from me. He has learned how to live, and that deserves to be sponsored and supported. And maybe that's what it is. But I could very, very much appreciate what you shared. So thank you, James. Brian, that was so poignant. But is there anything you would like to add, James?
I think it's at my stage, with my experience, I think what I value most in my life is what my children can learn from me and take off from that. So hopefully what people remember me by is by looking at the accomplishments of my own kids, and not just accomplishments in what they are able to do or bring home or anything like that, but like how's their family of their own, and how are they treating others? And hopefully after I've gone and somebody that knows me meets Brian and goes, wow, James did a good job with you, like you grew up well, and if he could, have a family and children and then have this same type of great relationship that I'm so fortunate to have with Brian and Derek, with his kids, I'd be doing backflips.
Yeah, that's awesome. That'd be all I love it. I alluded to this earlier, that I know of other, father and son or parent-child, teams or, coaster lovers and things like that. And I've interviewed them and on the other podcasts and all that. One of those teams I can think of is Chuck and Chase Cole. Chuck, I met, of all places, it's fate, karma. Again, I believe in those things. And we met just by chance in the middle of waiting for Tron Light Cycle Power Run in Shanghai 4 years ago. And I was wearing my Coaster Challenge shirt. I was there, partially representing Coaster Challenge, filming there in China at the parks I went to. And Chuck and his son Chase were there and just happened to be behind me. I was wearing a BMW hat, and Chuck kind of looks to me and says, okay, probably speaks English, or he's European or from the US or something. And he says English, I said, yeah. And then it turns out he already knew David. And I told this story before on the podcast, and they've become great friends of ours. And we've had Chuck on the podcast multiple times. And again, he has a great relationship with his son. He travels all over the world, taking his son to parks, and they just have a great, again, it's like that best friend relationship. He's so supportive of his son. But, I didn't think about this before the interview, the significance of this, but you guys have that, but you also have this working relationship, which is also spawning off into your career now, Brian, and that you guys are just taking it to the whole next level. And again, I've been, talking about this already, but I can't stop, but because I'm just so happy for you guys and so impressed and just, I just love all of this. And I love how you guys take it to the next level. And, for you, James, to remember, for what you did for your kids and how you led your kids to success. I totally, if that's how you remember by, that's absolutely fantastic, because look what you've done. So, yeah, absolutely. So, we talked about a lot of wisdom here and positivity, and you guys have already given some good advice and shared some good stories, but this is kind of like this last kind of main question is just kind of for housekeeping, if you will. If there's any last tidbits or gems you'd like to share, any final advice you'd like to give those that are listening.
Oh man, okay. So there's a bit of advice that you gave me a long time ago that I think about a lot.
I say a lot of stuff.
A long time ago, and I think about this when considering my career and everything I want to do, is a long time ago, I used to play, I'm sure you're familiar with the game Minecraft.
Of course.
All the time. And I got hired by a small little company to build stuff for them. They paid me. They paid me some money to do it, and it was a fun thing to do over the summer.
Wow.
And he supported it fully, which I was like, oh, sweet. He supports me playing a video game. But he told me, he said, and I think you were quoting someone, so I don't think it's a James from Zooder Loopers quote, but he said, if you find a job that you love, like, you'll never work a day in your life or something like that.
Yeah, that's a famous quote. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I came up with that.
You came up with that? Okay.
That was mine.
Yeah. Anywho, he said that, and I had never heard that before at that age, and that stuck with me for so long, and it still sticks with me today, that I still reference it almost on the daily when talking about this, because after every time we're filming, after every day we do something related to this channel, I just have the biggest smile on my face, and I'm just thinking about what's next. That's just awesome. So happy doing this that, like, it never feels like work. It is always just fun.
That's awesome.
I guess to add, if I could give like more specific advice to anybody that might be listening, is outside of enjoy yourself while you're doing this, is pay attention to your analytics. Seriously. Yeah. Like, look, there's people that are listening that are probably like, dude, these guys have 1,000 somewhat subscribers. How are they getting into these media events? I don't know how we are, but I will say, pay attention to your analytics, and be honest with yourself. If you want to make this a business, make it a business and treat it like a business. If you want to do it, really be serious about it. Pay attention to your analytics and look at the numbers. Yeah. And we look at it and we'll see, like, for example, we were invited to a non-coaster event recently. I don't want to like share it, but it's on our, it's because, we were invited, so I don't want to like out them for a bad performing video, but like the video did terrible.
It was a great video.
Oh, I loved it.
I was so happy with it, but it flopped.
The thing is, I knew it wasn't going to do good because I look at our analytics and I see what our audience likes more, and I could see what grows our audience a little bit more. Mm-hmm. We did it because it was a good opportunity for us
Sure.
So there was still a reason to do it. But at the same time, I still want to just urge anybody that's listening, look at your analytics, check them out, check your click-through rate on YouTube. If your thumbnail, look at it as at an inch big. If it's too cluttered, no one's going to click on it.
Right.
Clean up your thumbnails. Clean up your titles. If there's 3 dots after your words in your titles, it's too long. Shorten it. Keep changing and keep analyzing and challenge yourself.
There's a character limit before it starts trailing off. And what is that?
Right.
I don't know, but like we're not perfect by any means. Oh, if you could hear me looking at my analytics, I'm like, we suck.
Yeah, we do.
But
analytics-wise,
it's okay because
you're learning.
Because if you have a 5% click-through rate, then aim to get a 6% click-through rate.
Right.
And the great thing that I love about YouTube is that there's no need to bash other people's YouTube content. There's no need to like put down other people's content. It's not a zero-sum game, because the Coaster Challenge podcast can blow up, and that won't take away from a Zooder Loopers audience.
Yep.
Because we could both grow together, and there's an audience for everyone. This video is probably going to be over an hour long. I would never in my life put out an hour-long video, ever. But there's an audience.
It's a different form of media.
Right.
There's an audience for our stuff.
Exactly.
And
audio can be a longer format because again, people can listen to it in parallel to other things like driving and whatnot.
So
and I love
just encouraging people, figure out what you love, make it, look at your analytics. You don't need to copy everybody. Not everybody needs to be Coaster Studios. Like, you could be yourself. You could do your own thing, and you could just explore and fail and it's okay, because you'll get better.
You learn.
Sorry, it's because Brian shared super high level, but if there's a 16-year-old listening to this, like, man, I want to get my own YouTube channel, but I suck. Like, you don't suck. Just keep going.
Keep at it. No, I love it. Again, that positivity. Great advice, both of you. And James, I love that you shared that, just because your YouTube channel, you don't have to be in competition with other YouTube channels. You don't have to tear each other down. Because when I joined Coaster Challenge, I actually probably watched a little more YouTube back then. My life wasn't as busy. I wasn't going on a cruise every month like I am. Again, not complaining. I've got a great life. I'm happy about my life, and I'm going on a cruise tomorrow. I'm again, I love themed entertainment. That's what cruises are all about, and amongst other things. And no, I have a great life. I get to travel. I get to talk to great people like you. I get to go to the parks and ride these great coasters. And living in Florida is amazing, and all the great parks we have here. Again, I'm very happy with my life. Back 5 years ago, my life was different. I was still married, and that had its own challenges, and I was home more and not doing as much. And I did watch more YouTube back then, and I was aware certainly of rivalries between channels and all that. So when I met David 5 years ago, I was like, wow, okay, this is a YouTube channel, but it's for charity. It's for good mission, people facing their fears. And I was like, I want to join this channel because this is a great mission. I want to be a part of this. And soon thereafter, David and I teamed up, and I was glad to be part of that mission because we weren't competing with anyone. We don't make money off of this. We put our own money into it, which is, again, that's different than what you're looking to do, Brian. Again, this is not my career. This is for fun. You want to make a career of it and go for it. That's awesome. And I think you're going to do great. But for me, I didn't want to compete, but I see so many of my friends fighting, competing with each other. And it's just like, come on, guys. I mean, I get it. This is your living, but you can still support each other.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, I watch multiple channels.
I watch so many different types of creators that make completely different things. And I love them all the same. There's an audience for everything. Like
absolutely.
You said.
Yeah, there's a lot of great creators out there. Shout out to Usement Insider, to Ultra Orion, to Park Pros, to Theme Park Worldwide. I mean, these are
dude,
and you're listing off like right there. Park Pros makes the greatest short form content I've seen.
He does.
Orion and his Coaster Idiots got us.
That inspired a lot of our early.
Oh, I bet it did. Yeah,
of course, right? Because it's just dudes having fun. It's like I want to be a dude having fun.
No, and Ryan, and it's funny, Ryan is a friend of mine. I've hung out with him several times. We've had him here on the podcast. One of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. Mm-hmm. So kind, so genuine. And, you know, I'm friends with Mark, who's one of the idiots. You know, and our time Mike, I'm friends with him too. They're great guys. Mike, we've had here on the podcast. Mike, he had a great interview with Kim on here on the show, and he's got a great positive attitude like you guys do. And no, Brian's got some great people. We also had Dan, who I didn't really know well, but he had a great interview with Kim as well. Dan from Ryan, agree. I don't know if we've had Pete yet on yet, but you know, there's again great crew on there, great crew. But yeah, there's a lot of great creators out there, and that doesn't mean there can't be more.
Yeah.
You know, look at how many movie studios there are. Look how many movies coming out here. Look how many TV shows. Again, it's all good, all for the good. So, but anyway, so thanks for sharing your advice. So the last thing, and again, we love to promote. We talk about that. We're not, speaking of what you just talked about, we're not in competition with anyone else. So we're happy to promote. We love to promote, but I'm not trying to choose favorites or anything, but I really want to help promote you guys because you guys are awesome. You're positive attitudes. I love your and you want to tell stories and how you tell your stories and how awesome your videos are. And I love your energy, your passion. I want to see you guys succeed. And you guys are new. So, you know, it's especially helpful, I think, for new channels like you guys to get out there. You want to get more listeners, more subscribers. So I especially want you guys here in this final question, if you will, to promote away. This could be your social media, your YouTube channel. If you guys have a website, I know Instagram's one of your biggest things, YouTube obviously, but you know, whatever you want to share, if you want to share any personal social media, please, now is the time.
I think it's just got to be Zooder Loopers on YouTube.
Yeah, Zooder Loopers on YouTube. Zooder Loopers, Zooder_Loopers on Instagram. We're trying to get the hang of Twitter. Kind of got it. But we're Zooder Loopers on Twitter, and we're Zooder Loopers on Facebook, which is literally just anything that gets posted on Instagram goes on to Facebook. So we're still trying to learn that one.
Yeah. We're on all those platforms, and we're all the same name. It's just Zooder Loopers.
We are trying to understand how to use each platform. So like YouTube, our videos, our short form and photography could be on Instagram. And then our commentary could be on Twitter. And then we're trying to figure out what role to play in Facebook. But we are trying to figure out each platform to use it to its for what it's meant for or what it's best for.
Sure.
But we're across those four. So
right. And while this will be in the episode title and it'll be in the show notes, but just for the audio portion, because some people don't look at that stuff, they're just listening from podcast to podcast. If you are, looking for Brian and James and their channel, Zooder is spelled Zooder.
Yep.
Yes. A unique name. So actually, do you guys want to tell the story real quick of where you came up with the name?
Well, actually, it was the Zooder that's not here that figured it out.
Yeah, it was my little brother. He would always call me he would always call me Brooder, and it kind of derived from brother. That kind of just evolved into Zooder. I don't really know where or why.
Yeah, you guys just started making your words started morphing into just funny sounds to just be funny with each other.
Yeah. And so when we were making this channel,
oh god,
the original name we were thinking was going to be Gwazi Guys.
That was the front runner. Thank God.
And then he walks into the room. He's like, dude, that guy, that sucks. What do you have? And he's like, what about Zooder Loopers? I'm like, oh, no, that actually works. And no, with the Z, it's like, how many pages do you see that have a Z? It's such a recognizable letter, and it sticks in your mind. I thought it was really strong. So yeah, he tapped into his inner Andrew and came up with a great name.
I love it. That's awesome. I love people that are creative with names because it's so awesome. No, I love it. That's great. Thanks for sharing that story. All right. Yeah. Again, you guys are storytellers, so it's appropriate for the very last thing you guys did here in the interview is to share a story. So, thank you. I mean, I knew I would have fun with this interview. It'd be such a positive discussion, but you guys far exceeded that. This is one of my favorite interviews that I've done here on the podcast. Thank you for making it so positive, guys.
So
Thanks.
good. Thank you so much for having us.
Absolutely.
I hope we have I hope we hit the record for longest podcast. We won't beat your 100th episode though.
No. What are we at, David?
Not sure yet. I think the record is 3.5 hours. So
we're not there. We're not there. It's one of the longest.
Look, let's derail him.
All right. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
All right.
If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to like and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. If you want to see more of us, we upload every Friday. Be sure to like us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. All at Coaster Challenge. Links are in the description below. Thanks for joining us here today.